I have a new... I don't have my button yet for a motion. They were going to give me a motion button. Okay, we'll call the City of Saratoga Springs City Council Policy Meeting to order on Tuesday, December 4th, 2018 at 6:28 p.m. Present tonight, I have Councilman Porter, Councilman Barch, Councilman McComber, Councilman Wilden, and Councilman Podesta. So we have a quorum. I have asked Councilman Podesta to lead us in our invocation. And for our Pledge of Allegiance, I've asked Daniel, our city attorney tonight, to lead us. Not attorney. We're demoting you already. No. Engineer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this opportunity to come together as cities, residents, and developers looking for the best way to further enhance and improve our city. We're grateful for the freedoms that we have and opportunities we have to express those. We ask Thee to please bless us with Thy Spirit during this meeting, that we may be clear on our communication and be able to accomplish the tasks that we have come together tonight. We ask also for a blessing to be upon our police and fire departments, as well as our military. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matters not listed on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing items, Sergeant Court PUD Phase 1, or the amendment to the public safety impact fee, please hold your comments for the public hearings. If you're here for any other items, please state your name and address for the record. Please be respectful in your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please avoid repetitive comments. Anybody here for public input?
Here at Saratoga Springs, it's an honor to be with you. My name is Ben Stanley. My address is 1700 Blackhawk Circle in Pleasant Grove. And I am introducing myself in cities all over Utah and Tooele counties. Earlier this summer, I was nominated by Utah County to serve on what's called the Utah Transit Authority Board of Trustees. There was a Senate bill in the legislature this year that reorganized and restructured the governance model in an effort to have greater oversight over our transit district here in the state, to see greater accountability and to put the taxpayers ahead of special interests. And so Utah County nominated 2 individuals. My background is law. I graduated magna cum laude from Brigham Young University in 2003, began my career at Kirkland & Ellis working with luminaries like Dallin H. Oaks and Ken Starr and Brett Kavanaugh and Jeffrey Rosen and a bunch of other great legal minds, and appreciated that opportunity and worked. One of the things I did early in my career was rescue United Airlines from Chapter 11 bankruptcy when they were losing $2 billion every year in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks. And so that kind of experience, working with unions and working with multi-billion-dollar budgets and working with transportation clients, appealed to our county commissioners. I've also been the president of the Utah County Rotary Club and been involved in civic service. I've sat in your seats in the past as a council member in Pleasant Grove, Utah. And I've appreciated all those different experiences, and they appealed to our county commissioners who nominated me and another individual. But there has been a little bit of drama. You maybe have even seen in the news that there has not been a decision yet on an appointment for Utah County. And so I have promised the governor's office and mayors and friends and allies in the legislature that I do what I would call a consensus building tour and a listening tour, trying to get unanimous support if we can get there. That may be an impossible standard. It's not the standard under the law, but it is kind of an effort to try to get more people to be vocal that we do want the voice of our choice, we want fidelity to the rule of law, and we want oversight for the Utah Transit Authority. So I'm going to shoot you guys an email later tonight so that you have my contact information. But if you have any questions today, I'm prepared to talk a lot about our transit plan and our tentative budget for UTA. If you have questions about those specifically, or if you want to know about the litigation, Utah County actually sued the governor and his office to try to encourage a decision so that we're not left in limbo for as long as we have been. The Daily Herald did a nice editorial board comment on how important it is that we have some stability and some movement, and that it's time for action and it's time to get one of our nominees appointed. So if you have questions for me, I'd love to answer them. The things that would help most is emails to thank our county commissioners for standing with our nominees, and to let the governor's office know that you appreciate the efforts of nominees to come and meet with you and to share a little bit about our background. But if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Say, if you'd leave your info with David, if they have any questions, we'll have them reach out to you.
That's awesome. I'll do that, Mayor. Thank you. And I'll also, like I said, send each of you an email so that you have my contact information. I'll share an op-ed I wrote back in August and a few other things that tell a little more about my background. Would love to be your servant and your ally and your advocate to make sure that we get some good leadership in our transit authority here in Utah. Thanks. I would stick around for your meeting too, but I'm going to try to make it to Eagle Mountain as well tonight, so I'm going to run. But thank you for the nice reception.
Okay, anyone else here for public input at this time?
Hi, my name's Caleb Buswell. I live here in Saratoga Springs. I would like to address the Beacon Point development that we are putting in. I'm concerned about the impact that this will have on our elementary schools and the educational infrastructure. I understand that it's a district's responsibility. However, the impact still occurs. The fact that no land has been set aside for a potential 1,900 plus new elementary school students to attend is scary. Our existing schools are already at capacity. With this development plus Jordan Promenade just to the north, you're potentially adding over 4,000 students with one elementary school planned. The city needs to start discussions with the district. The density of the project concerns me greatly. While the chart shows a maximum of 12 units per acre, the applicant said last time it could go as high as 16 units per acre. That made people packed into spaces like this need open green space that is usable by all. As Commissioner Steele said, this is a quality of life issue. This brings me to my next point, the green space designation. The open green space is disingenuous. Much of the green space will not be usable by the public. It will serve a select few. As Commissioner Steele said, I doubt someone wearing a bikini would be allowed to stay. The way that the green space is being double dipped between retention basins and parks is wrong by my opinion. By granting this a park and allowing them to be used as a park, they're getting full credit for the green space, but are not paying the impact fees. The city still has to maintain these parks. Since when is asphalt open green space? Again, disingenuous, only happens because of the DAP. Can't wait to see kids try to utilize that road as open space with the volume of traffic they'll be moving up that road. In at least 2 developments, there is no required open green space. Without a requirement for each village to have open space, there's no guarantee the open space will be installed no matter what they claim, and there will be nothing the city can actually do about it. This concern was also echoed by many people on the Planning Commission. The additional 20-foot buffer required to the south side of the development that they are requesting a variance on should not be granted by this council. The DAP does not require it. As I recall, the Planning Commission recommended against granting that variance as well. The traffic study that was done is kind of ridiculous. Using the Payson special project site as the example traffic is not being honest. The traffic patterns in all these areas are vastly different. If you're going to compare it against something, the Draper special project site would probably be more realistic. Beacon Point has one road in and out of the area for 1,900 homes, plus the special project patrons, not to mention the impact that this will have on Redwood. I have huge concerns about the one-of-a-kind First in Utah Founders Boulevard. Again, they're asking us to trust them, and that will be great, but again, there's nothing that the city will be able to do if it's not. We will be stuck with whatever cost is involved in fixing this one-of-a-kind boulevard. The variance on the night sky initiative without defining what will be on the property is crazy. No one else would dare ask for it.
Thank you. Anyone else for public input at this time? Okay, seeing no additional public input at this time, I will close the public input. We'll move on to reports. Is there any reports from the council this time? Oh, Councilman Podeska.
Yeah, just a reminder of the community event that's a group of residents have organized for Vista Heights and Westlake regarding guest speaker Colin Karchner as well as guest panel. So the parent night's December 12th at Vista Heights in the auditorium at 7 o'clock. And so this, as a city, we have shared concerns with teaching the students as well as the parents about proper use of social media, as well as device addiction. It's starting to be a leading cause towards suicide. And so as our numbers for those type of calls increase in our city, we're trying to do what we can to mitigate that. And this is just the start of many events that will be in our city to support that.
Okay. Councilwoman Barch.
New system. I had the opportunity to attend a pedestrian summit in Salt Lake put on by UDOT and several other entities, Vision Utah and a bunch of others. Anyway, talking a lot about connectivity and also a lot about ADA connectivity and how that works for pedestrians. Had a phenomenal speaker. She was, Miss Wheelchair USA 2006, I believe. She was quite entertaining and very informative as well. But it was interesting to hear some of the comments, specifically about how we need to make sure that our trails aren't just, you know, trails to nowhere kind of thing. And I think that's one of the things I'm excited about as we go through and redo our Parks and Master Trails plans, is making sure that we continue that connectivity. Also, while there, I had a good conversation with Matt Parker from UDOT, and we were talking about that connectivity and the issues that we had with our canal trail and incoming Mountain View corridor. So I think through our updated Master Trails and Parks plan, as well as some of the work we're doing with them, hopefully we can get some of those issues resolved, but some good ideas were brought forward, so I just want to report on that.
Okay, Councilman Porter.
Mine's more fun than business. Just the Councilwoman Barch, Councilman Podeska, and I were able to attend the Christmas tree lighting event. City staff did a great job putting that on. I think it was enjoyed by everyone there, except for the people that were far away from the heaters. Maybe not so much, but it was a cold night, but it was a lot of fun. People seemed to really enjoy it. So
We've had snow in the past.
yeah.
Okay, Councilman McComber.
So I just have two quick things. The first, I had an opportunity to attend the North Utah, well, it's actually the Utah County Business Summit, and that was a really neat event. We had some great speakers at the event. One in particular was Astrid, the new president of UVU. What an amazing asset to the community she is. I talked to her about Saratoga Springs and how we've had a long-term relationship with her predecessor, President Holland, about potentially having a satellite campus in Saratoga Springs, and she expressed extreme interest. And then her chief of staff actually spoke up and said, we are still very interested, and I was part of those conversations with President Holland. And so we'll be moving forward with that. So I just wanted to let the City Council know that there's probably some traction happening in that arena. Again, they just purchased land in Payson, actually. And so they're moving forward. But there were a lot of UDOT spoke, and we had Chad Lewis spoke. That was really cool. And just many other really great speakers, but really talking about the future of Utah County and the mass amounts of growth. Over 2 million square feet of office space, Class A office space, in the next 20 months is coming online between Sandy, and they actually use Saratoga Springs as the southern border. So I think that's really great. I asked some pretty pointed questions around the governor's financing of some of the projects and not other areas, and putting all of the economic development money into one development. And I got a lot of head nods and a lot of support from other cities and other people in the meeting during the break. And I said, go tell them. And so we went and talked with Utah representatives and let them know that we weren't okay with that. And so, hey, it moves in the right direction. The second thing I just wanted to mention real quickly is on December 17th is the city holiday concert. And I think this would be a great opportunity for people who want to hear some great music. We're going to have music numbers, guest performers, soloists, and they're also going to have a couple sing-ins sing-alongs, if you would. And so just if you're interested, you can see that on the website, and on Facebook we'll be advertising it as well, but that's on Monday, December 17th.
Okay. Administration, Mark. It won't turn on, sorry. There you go.
We're good.
You're good? Nothing about the Patriot Park?
Oh, yes. Kenny Singh missed the 21st deadline, and so the performance bonus that was originally offered in the original contract was not received. And so we amended the budget to include that, and that's no longer something that we will be funding.
Okay.
But the park's looking fantastic, and it should be opening soon. They've just got some things that they've got to finish up. And then obviously there's some things, I had a question come up to me from one of you about warranty items on grass and things like that. And we still have all of our warranties and things like that that will take place. So it triggers from when they turn it over to us.
So we also have the park agreement, the fees, and everything underneath your administration, not
Correct.
later.
Yeah, no, it's an item on here. I'll discuss it when we discuss the fee schedule.
Right now.
We've got it as 3A.
Oh, do we?
The agenda,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so I apologize. I thought you were asking if this was an administrative report. So, okay, so, and I apologize. I got off.
It's item 9.
Okay, we'll just hold it to item 9.
Okay.
You listed
Thanks.
it twice, overachiever.
So Kevin's saying we should do it now.
Okay.
So in essence, what we're doing is the rental agreement, we're going to do it administratively. So that way, if there's any tweaks or changes, we can deal with that at the staff level under my purview. And then as a council, item 9 will be you adopting the fee schedule. And so you're enacting the fee schedule that will charge for that. But as far as the rental terms and the agreements and things like that, those will all be things that would be under my purview. Thank you.
Okay. Public hearings. We have Sergeant Court, PUD Phase 1, plat amendment and transfer of ownership of city property. Todd Austin is the applicant.
That's the applicant. You're welcome.
Oh, he's our guy. Oh.
The applicant can sit here.
Okay, so this is for a plat amendment and transfer of ownership of city property. It's located at 18 West Sergeant Court Drive. And a little background before we continue with the slides. This application is related to the Austin office building conditional use that the council will be reviewing a little bit later in the meeting. And the applicant is requesting it because he's required to have a 20-foot setback along Redwood Road. And this will help him meet that 20-foot setback. And during the concept review, it was suggested that this would be a good route to pursue. And so the area in red is the area that the city owns. The rest of it is owned by UDOT Park Strip. But the city does maintain the entire park strip. So the land that is being proposed to be transferred is 0.05 acres. And the applicant will be responsible to maintain the entire park strip along his property. And the city will retain a utility, public trail, and road easement over this area. And the transfer of land will save the city about $4,000 a year in maintenance costs. And this is the plat. And condition number 2 talks about that they need to follow the standard plat format. There are a few red lines, but they're mainly due with the signature blocks, so they're very minor. So that's what condition number 2 is about in the staff report. And also in the notes, and also in one of the conditions of approval, and also in the resolution, it does talk about how the city will retain that utility, public trail, and road easement over the parcel being deeded to the applicant. And so the recommendation is for approval of the findings and conditions found in the staff report. And the alternative motions are for continuance and denial, and that's the report.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything before we open the public hearing?
No.
Okay. I will open the public hearing on the Sergeant Court PUD Phase 1 plat amendment. Just a reminder, please be respectful in your comments. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for the public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any comments from the council? Councilman McComber?
Oh, I did it to you again. All right, there we go. So the only thing is there's a couple spots, if you look at the alignment with the sidewalk, I just want to make sure that in the agreement, somehow it states that they maintain everything west of the sidewalk, so we're not having to go and do 2 little half-moon slivers that don't fall within their property. I don't want to mobilize all the equipment or anything as we're maintaining along sidewalk if weeds start building up. So everything west of the sidewalk, I would hope that they would maintain.
Yes, we will be asking them to maintain that entire park strip.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Both sides?
Yeah, both sides of the sidewalk. The street side.
So they'll have the ownership of the strip, if you would, but they'll maintain, as part of the agreement, all of it.
Everything back of curb.
Okay,
Back
great.
at curb, yeah, they will be maintained.
They have to maintain on both sides of the sidewalk.
So
City
back of
code
the curb to the road.
Yeah, the city
Thank
code
you.
requires park strip to be maintained by the adjacent property owner, so they
Unless
fall
it's
into
our
that.
property, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
in this case,
Thank you.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Councilman Wilden?
Well, Councilman McComber addressed my concern as well, and if there's other city property you'd like to maintain for us too, I will prove it right now, guaranteed.
That's enough.
All right.
You're okay with the .05?
I can get you 2 more votes if you want to do that.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. I will entertain a motion. Councilwoman Barch?
I move to approve the Sergeant Court PUD Phase 1 Lot 102 Plat Amendment located at 18 West Sergeant Court Drive with findings and conditions in the staff reports dated November 26th of 2018, including all staff findings and conditions.
Okay. I have a first from Councilwoman
I'll
Barch.
second.
I have a second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion on the motion? I will entertain roll call, sorry. Podeska?
Aye.
Killing me, Wilden. Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
We're
Motion
laughing because
passes
we have a new
unanimously.
system and you keep yeah, sorry.
Mike's off faster than I can turn them on.
Stop blinking.
It's only like our second time on it. So.
Okay, public hearing for the amended Public Safety Impact Fee Facility Plan, IFFP. Mark?
Susie Becker sends her apologies from Zions Bank. She's actually the one that conducted the study for us and helped meet with the development community relative to this a couple of weeks ago with our open house. She is not here. We do have Aaron Montgomery, right, in the back, who's with us if we get into any technical questions. If I could, it's in your packet and it was available in the library and public sources and things. The impact fees are going to be reducing for residential from $850 per ERU down to $463.10, and that's the maximum that we could charge. And then for non-residential, it changes. It used to be based on the number of ERUs or equivalent residential units. And it was $850 per ERU, depending on how large the businesses were. That's changed. It's now going to a per square foot cost, which would be recommended in the study to come in at 0.62. The city is fairly high on police. It's second highest. I believe Provo just adopted an impact fee that's slightly higher, but it's on the bottom end in the fire realm. And that is driven largely because of the fiscal impacts that we're facing with the construction of our new police facility and the costs associated with the land acquisition and all those things. So it's a pretty spendy endeavor. The public safety impact fee for fire also includes, for non-residential, it includes the purchase of a new ladder truck. And you've got to remember that this is each home or business paying their proportionate share of those fees for those required impact fee infrastructure. So with that, be happy to answer any questions from the council, and obviously we've got Aaron here to help tackle some questions from the public should anything come up. It is a reduction in impact fees for their residential. For businesses, it depends on the size of business as to what that impact might be looking like, but it is on a per square foot basis. It's not an apples to apples comparison because we did change that methodology, but we feel that this is a very fair and defensible study relative to the impact fees for public safety. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I will open the public hearing on the amended public safety impact fee. As a reminder, please state your name and address for the record. Please be respectful in your comments. Please avoid repetitive comments, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for input on the, or public hearing on the amended public safety impact fee? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Comments from the council. Councilman Wilden.
I don't have any questions per se because we've seen a number of impact fee updates over the years, but I really do appreciate, and just for the public to know, that we're not just arbitrarily raising impact fees. It's based upon actual cost and people paying the share of their impact on the community. And I really do appreciate what staff and then our consultatives help us do is really create a defensible product or report that shows that what we're doing is data-based, not just an arbitrary type of number. So that's all I had, Mayor.
Okay, Councilwoman Barch.
Just to add a little bit into that, add a little bit into that is the fact that I really appreciate that we're being quite proactive about this and that we're making sure that we're justified in our impact fees throughout. This is something that the legislature has been looking at and has been reassuring to be able to say, well, we've been doing this for a while on our impact fees and adjusting them as we go and making sure that they are justified, that we're really taking the impacts that we have and spreading those out to those new homes and those new businesses that are coming in. So I really appreciate staff being proactive on that.
Councilman Porter.
Excuse me, along the same lines, I think it's as Councilwoman Barch, I think it's important to note that we have been proactive. We are doing this regularly so that it is reflecting the true cost to the city with the development. I mean, it was mentioned that Provo is also looking at raising their rates. They haven't looked at their rates for 14 years. Now we're decreasing our impact fees on the residential side quite significantly. If we waited 14 years, we would have been overcharging for 14 years. So I think the fact that we're doing this on a regular basis and continually updating it to maintain a defensible impact fee rate is commendable. So thank you, staff.
Okay, Mark or Kevin.
I was just going to say, if the council is done making comments, I just needed to point out that the ordinance in the packet, it looks like it was changed from the draft that was sent to the recorder's office for inclusion in the packet. What it was meant to say was the changes are denoted as underlines and strike throughs. Those red lines have been taken out. So we just need to change section 2 to basically say this repeals and replaces with the following language. So just if you can make a motion to section 2 to change the wording to the following language shall repeal and replace the existing chapter 707. Thank you.
Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we, excuse me, sorry, let me get that. I move that we approve the amended public safety impact fee facilities plan, amended public safety impact fee analysis, and amended public safety impact fees ordinance 18-38 dated today with the changes in the ordinance to number 2 to say repeal and replace with the verbiage as specified by Kevin. Yeah, in the ordinance. Number 2 in the ordinance, right? Yeah.
And there is one other change, Mayor, and in the ordinance that's in the packet, I believe there was a revised ordinance that showed the 62 cents per square foot for the residential. The original one showed 76 cents. So just to clarify,
it's the 62.
Some of the
commercial
feedback we got caused us to go back and relook at it since our last public hearing, which reduces it to the 62. So we would be adopting the 62 cents a square foot numbers.
Clarifying that we're adopting the 62 cent per square foot.
For the non-residential.
For the non-residential, yeah.
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a first from Councilwoman Barch, second from Councilwoman Porter. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Porter.
Aye.
Barch.
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business items, we have an appointment of Karen Brown to the Saratoga Springs Library Advisory Board, Resolution R 18-57.
So we have a vacant position on the library board. We're just making a request that you appoint Karen Brown to a partial term that will run until June 30th of 2021.
Councilwoman Barch?
Just a comment. Karen wanted to apologize for not being here tonight. She had planned on being here and something came up. So she just wanted to say thank you for her opportunity to serve and wishes she could be here.
Councilman Porter?
I just have a motion if you're ready.
Oh, Councilman Wilden, do you have a comment or more? Okay. Okay.
I move that we approve the appointment of Karen Brown to the Saratoga Springs Library Advisory Board, Resolution R18-57, dated today.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Porter. I got it right this time. And a second from Councilman Comber. Any further discussion on the motion? Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the reappointment of Bryce Anderson to the Planning Commission, Resolution R18-58.
Recently, Commissioner Anderson was appointed to fill in the place of Commissioner Brush, who was appointed to fill in the place of Commissioner Funk. Commissioner Funk full term now expires this year, with Commissioner Anderson then filling in at the end there. So we'd ask that he be reappointed for 4 years to the Planning Commission, reappointed to the Planning Commission.
I had a chance to talk to him. He's interested. He's got a good understanding and going, which is the learning curve's the hardest part.
Right.
So is there any questions? Bryce is here today. If the council has any questions, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we reappoint Bryce Anderson to the Planning Commission, Resolution R18-58, dated today, for a 4-year term.
I have a first from Councilwoman McComber, a second from Councilwoman Barch. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just thank you for serving, Bryce.
Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Okay. Item 3, Smith and Freeland Annexation Petition, Acceptance for Further Consideration. D.R. Horton. Chriselle Travis is the applicant. Chriselle, if you'd like to come up to the hot seat.
It's actually freezing in here, just so you know. Yeah. Thanks.
Do you want to sit here right under that?
No, there's a breeze from the back door, but sorry, Nora, go ahead.
That's okay.
Cook us. Just turn it off.
So D.R. Horton has submitted an application on behalf of the Freelands and Smiths, and they've all okayed this request. And they filed a petition for annexation. And they filed that fairly recently. This is the first council meeting that we could get them on because of the holiday schedule and everything. So this is just for acceptance of the petition, which basically just gives us the go-ahead to move forward and process it. Cindy Lopiccolo, the city recorder, will certify it. And then there's a publishing for 3 consecutive weeks and a protest period. And at the same time, we'll be working with D.R. Horton and Chriselle on the concept plan. And all that stuff will come back to you. This is just really the go ahead. There's a resolution that is in your packet. These are the 4 parcels in relation, just on the county plat maps. It's the 4 that are outlined in red. And this is showing 3 of them, maybe 2 of them. 2 of them, and this is the other 2. So this is the annexation plat. These are the plats that have been proposed. So you will see this again. This is just the go-ahead. One correction or addition to the resolution. There is a address. We wanted to clarify what the addresses, the real addresses are, rather than off of 2300 West. They actually are on Saratoga Road, all of them. It's 992 East Saratoga Road, 279 North Saratoga Road, and 621 North Saratoga Road. That's the 2 parcels on the northern portion. Those addresses will probably change because of the intent, I believe, if this is annexed, is for this to be added into the North Shore neighborhood. And so addresses will probably change. But for purposes of being able to reference where it is, those are the addresses that we've given that short term.
Okay. Perfect. I appreciate the landowner's desire to come into Saratoga Springs and look forward to working with them and D.R. Horton. Councilwoman Barch. Oh, I've got a motion ready to be made.
I move that we accept the Smith and Freeland annexation petition for further consideration. D.R. Horton, Christelle Travis applicant, with the addresses listed on Saratoga Road as referenced by Nora.
First from Councilwoman Barch.
Second.
Second from Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion on the motion?
Including resolution R18-59 dated today. Sorry.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, amended, yeah.
Roll call. Porter.
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Barch.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, if
I just had a question.
I do.
Okay.
I do too.
Okay. I got short circuited. I was just wondering, are you still pursuing any of the other remnant parcels, or are those not off the table? Right. That's
Surrounded
that's
by
fine.
all of you. That'll be great.
Just curious.
But I did meet with them over Thanksgiving down in St. George, and so they're aware of what's coming and what's happening. So
They're definitely aware, though.
Awesome.
They're
said
well aware of all that's coming around them.
well aware of what's happening, and she'd like to save the trees that are along that south. So I'm working with Nora to see what's happening with there. We got to figure out how to
We're
do
always
that.
fans of saving trees around here.
We got to evaluate whether they're worth saving too. That's the other problem. They haven't been maintained for a while. The cathedral, they would love to bring it in. As if you know a priest that's willing to come to Saratoga Springs, they'll build it tomorrow.
So my question real quick is actually for Nora. Where are we at on working with UDOT and getting Saratoga Road put on the sign that on Pioneer Crossing, so it has 2300 Saratoga Road?
I have no idea. That's a really good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nora. Dodge the bullet. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to jump down to business item 7, Austin Office Building Conditional Use Permit. Todd Austin is applicant.
It's already there. Okay, so this is for the conditional use for the Austin office building. It's related to the Plat amendment you just approved. And so with the Plat amendment being approved, and once everything's recorded and official, the total acreage will be 1.45 acres. And the main use will be a physical therapy office that'll be located on the main level, and then there'll be some office space in the basement. And then the reason why it's coming to City Council is a physical therapy office is a conditional use in the mixed use zone. And so there's a picture of the site plan. And the building size is 3,950 square feet. And then the upstairs, the physical therapy office will be 2,200 square feet. And then the office space is in the basement. It's 1,750 square feet. So they are required to have 18 parking spaces, and they are proposing 18. And because of the physical therapy office, they're required to have 4 accessible spaces, which they are providing, and 2 of those are van accessible. And then their 2 sidewalks do connect to the Redwood Road Trail. And then they do have an ADA ramp on the south west part of the property that will connect to the rest of the development. Here's a picture of their landscape plans. They meet all their qualifications for landscaping and the amount. And they're also required to screen the parking lot from Redwood Road, and the shrubs they're proposing meet that requirement. And then a little background on the elevations. So when they presented their concept plan to the City Council, they had more of a modern looking building, and the City Council asked them to try to match some. This was during the concept plan. Yeah. So it was about a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. But they had that modern-looking building, and so it's asked that they match some of the buildings, surrounding it. So that's what they have done. They're matching. They're going to have the same material as the building to the north, and all their architectural. It meets all the architectural design standards, and also they have extra architectural design standards in the mixed-use zone. One of those is that they have their facade be 50% windows, and they also meet that requirement. And then lastly, here's a picture of their signage. It meets all of our size requirements. So the south sign will be their primary sign, and it is under 8% of the facade, so it meets the requirement. North side will be the secondary sign, and it is less than 50% of the size of the primary, so it does meet that requirement. So the Planning Commission, they recommended approval. And then the alternative motions is continuance and denial, and that's the report.
Okay, I will comments, or does the applicant have anything to add to this, or?
No, I've been just practicing in that same area for about 10 years, or more than 10 years. So just trying to go from leasing to owning.
There you
Smart
go.
move.
We're glad you're
Good to
staying
see you
here
be able to
too.
expand.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move. I'm moving that we approve the Austin office building conditional use permit, Todd Austin applicant, 18 West Sergeant Court, including staff findings and conditions.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Wilden.
I'll second.
You got beat again. Councilman Podeska, second that. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just one comment. I just appreciate all the complies throughout. That just says a lot about you guys have done your homework and you've worked with staff, and it makes our job a lot easier. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
When do you anticipate breaking ground?
We're looking at maybe March-ish.
After we
fall.
thaw out.
Sooner than that we'd like to, but I think realistically maybe the 1st of March.
Cool.
Okay, perfect.
Weather dependent.
Okay. We'll do a roll call. Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And the building looks nice.
Your name is spelled right, McComber's is not.
Mine's spelled right.
Yes. It's McCobbler.
It's McComber, M-C-C-O.
Okay, we will move to item 11. Yeah, 11.
Mayor and Council, this is a request tonight for community plan approval of Beacon Point. As you see here on the map, the property is identified. It's obviously part of the church, the SLR property, currently under ranch use right now, agricultural use. The applicant seeks community plan approval, which, as we know, kind of gives some very high-level standards for future development. Community plan will identify various things. Then, as development progresses, village plans will come in with more specific ideas. So, the community plan right now, we're looking at the uses proposed in this area will be residential, single family attached, multifamily. There will be open space, church meeting houses, a special project area, and of course there's also an option to have some neighborhood commercial in this area. Open space types, we're going to have neighborhood parks, parkways, connector trails. There's a community park, a special use, which is governed, which these are all identified in the DAP. And then the project is greater than or equal to at least 18% open space. The DAP, which is the district area plan, which outlines some park place types and neighborhood place types, are identified. And the applicant has chosen that the two place types in the Beacon Point would be the traditional neighborhood and the neighborhood commercial. Probably anticipated very limited neighborhood commercial, I would suspect, but they do want that option in there that potentially a corner store or something like that could come in the future. But I'd probably anticipate most of this would probably fall into the traditional neighborhood place type. The project itself totals 371 acres. Of that, 304 acres comprise the residential section. It also includes the meeting house areas as well. Then 67 acres or so would then be the open space. It is broken down to the right there. You see on the column there the various types of open space and the acreages within the project. Here we see the villages. Now, again, the community plan is a very broad level. It identifies the villages. At some point, the developers will come in. They may buy a village or whatever, however the developer, the property owner works it out. A village plan would come in, say, for Parley Orchard or Wilson Knoll, whatever it may be. And then a village plan will identify a lot of the details. It'll look at lot layouts. It'll be more specific to the road layouts within that village plan. It'll identify amenities. It'll basically give you all the details of how that village will then develop. But this just identifies where those villages are. The special project site, also in the red you see that would probably most likely be the first development area, which would be Village 1A. The special project site, which is 22 acres, is Village 1B. And then the remaining villages you see in the gray are identified by name, and they're given the acreage size, the average units, the density on there, and how many ERUs are anticipated within each of those villages. This is just a breakdown of each village, what the size is, what the density is in each village, how much open space is provided, and then how many ERUs or equivalent residential units are projected to be within each village. Now, if you look at the names, those names are actually some historical names. It's expounded upon within the community plan. Some local historical names tying each neighborhood to those. The open space plan you see here, it's shown in red and green. The red would be HOA or owner owned and maintained, and then anything in green would then be city owned and maintained. And it's anticipated too that as these village plans come in, there'll be additional open space, amenities, things like that within each of these village plans as well. But what you see here would be the minimum of the 18% open space. Thematic elements which can be included in various villages. These are just some design elements that they can incorporate. Benches, some different types of street signage, or the poles themselves, I should say, instead of the standard pole for a stop sign. They want to dress it up a bit. Things like that, just to add some unique character to the villages. And each of these villages could take on a different theme of sort. Their guiding principles, when they looked at the community plan here, they addressed they looked at these guiding principles here and said, how can we make these things? What do we look at security? How do we make conveniences walkable for the community? Where are our trails? That sort of thing. So these 6 principles here is how they outlaid the community plan itself. One of the unique things about the community plan is Founders Boulevard. The city currently does not have this road cross section you see here. What's unique about this is it has slip lanes, a one-way slip lane on each side of the boulevard. That would then be used to access the homes. So homes would actually face out towards Founders Boulevard, which will not use Founders Boulevard to directly access the homes. The other option would be to have no slip lane and have homes backed up to the road, which as far as aesthetic appeal is probably not the best option. So this was the option, that's the ask of the applicant to implement this type of cross-section for the Founders Boulevard project. This is just a greater detail into the slip lane, showing you, we'll have a wide sidewalk, wide park strip, and then the one lane, one direction lane itself with parking. Then again, another park strip, then that going out onto the travel lane of Founders Boulevard. So they actually be 2 landscape medians before you get to the houses along Founders Boulevard. They do have what's called edge conditions. So you see the areas identified by the dashed lines. They have some special requirements in the community plan for the edge conditions. So for instance, you look on the south where it's edge condition 1 in green. For instance, those lots would be an average of 9,500 square feet. In Wilson Knoll, Parley Orchard, they'd be an average of 7,000 square feet. The lots on the other side of that are already established, they're in the 9,500 to 10,500 square foot, just to give you a comparison of what's there now. They recognize that we need to probably comply or come close to what's already existing there to kind of help feather the density, the lot size from what's existing, as you see. This just gives some basic standards of each village, what the minimum lot sizes are. Again, we have edge conditions 1, 2, and 3, which increase those sizes. Just some standard requirements here, minimum lot size. If you have a 2-family residence or a 3-family residence, or if there are any apartments or attached units above 4 units in a building, you would then go by the 600 square foot for a single bedroom, 800 square feet at least for 2+ bedrooms. And just some other development standards here dealing with setbacks, what the single family setbacks would be, single family attached setbacks, and the multifamily. These are some of the main issues. There's some others we can obviously address. The document's 190 pages, so I tried to pull out the major stuff to show. The Planning Commission has recommended approval. They did pass along some conditions. As you can see, they're listed as what they recommend. And then, of course, the City Council always has the option to continue for further discussion, or have the applicant work on something, bring it back, or then deny the application.
Okay. Comments? Mark?
I believe the applicant had, did you want to show anything, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
We have a presentation. If you'd like to see it, we're happy to show it. If you would not like to see it, we're happy not to show it.
I'm told the video's good.
Okay. Let's see it.
You guys did it. Let's see it.
We'll try and give you the Reader's Digest version in consideration of everybody's time, because we know there's many more agenda items.
Yes. A lot of them. Then we'll get to Councilman Porter's comment. What's that? Your thing was blinking. Your thing was blinking. So I was going to call on you. No. Okay. Okay.
So it should be the only thing on there.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, I thought.
No. What?
And just for the record, by way of introduction, my name is Haley Wall. I work for LOSI. We're a landscape architecture, land planning, and urban design firm in Salt Lake City. And we've worked on many master plans and neighborhood building developments. And we're best known for working out at Daybreak, which we've been involved with from inception. So Beacon Point, just to give you a little background on the name, since Councilman Podeska is here, in early conversations with Councilman Bud Podeska, it was mentioned that he wanted Saratoga Springs to be a beacon to other communities. So in honor of his service and of other founders, we've named Beacon Point and the villages after local or regionally significant founders. I will try and skip through. David's covered many of this. Here you see those edge conditions that he mentioned. This is really just to blend the community in, and any that is visible or prominent from roadways to make sure that it's extra attractive. So we've sort of have elevated standards on any of those edges you see there. For example, on the southern one, as he mentioned, we're going to try and match frontages, lot sizes, fence and lot lines where possible to really blend seamlessly into the community. That's another reason why we asked for the exception from the 20-foot buffer. We didn't want dead space. We wanted a seamless transition in between neighborhoods since they're both residential uses. We'll skip along here. You may have noticed the special project site. Once again, we don't have any details other than it is ecclesiastical use with extensive open space. So Founders Boulevard really is the backbone of the community, and it's that gateway, that grand promenade. It has many different uses. So as mentioned, it will serve as a through traffic as well as local traffic to our residents along here, and we wanted it to be functional for our residents. So these slip lanes allow street parking in front of it, and yet that hedge buffers it and allows children to safely play in their own yard while screening those parked cars from that view corridor. We have an unobstructed view basically from that special project site back east to Utah Lake, and we really wanted to preserve that as a nice public amenity for everyone. We also did things like raise the crossings at these edges so that cars really have to defer to the pedestrian. It makes it much more safe for all our neighborhood uses. We expect joggers and families to be out using this actively. Bikers have a 5-foot dedicated bike lane adjacent to the travel lane instead of that slip lane, so they don't have to conflict with parked cars and worry about doors. And then a double row of trees really accentuates and creates a nice covered area for walkers and joggers. It prevents wind, which I hear is pretty nasty here in Saratoga, from blowing people away when they go for their jog. And here's a nice little video. So you'll notice the double row of trees. We've worked with Rick Kennington from the city here on making sure that we chose species that would actually survive and really thrive here in Saratoga Springs. And in our city park, we've proposed a tree nursery so that we have replacement trees readily available to replace whenever necessary. So you'll also notice, so this is towards that slight knoll. That knoll is where that special project is located. So those hedges really sort of narrow your view and create a nice ambiance for the entire community. Okay. So once again, this is the framework for the entire community. I know a lot of residents were concerned that we weren't providing enough. This is the skeleton. We'll be fleshing that out, and especially for our citizens who aren't aware of the process, in future village plans, we'll have much more detail, and those will all come before you. So anything that needs to be approved has a second chance to come before you guys. So open space per village, as has been mentioned, some of our villages don't show any planned open space at this time. We're expecting that our developers will want to add their own amenities. But because we didn't have that detail and they're not on board at this time, we wanted to be able to work with them one-on-one and really flesh out those details. Now we have amenities that sort of tie our entire community together. So we have site furnishings such as benches, trash cans, mailbox, signage that are going to be continuous throughout the entire community. But then we also have village by village stylized amenities such as pavilions, restrooms, and they will follow the architectural style established in that individual village. So hopefully that just gives you a small little snapshot of what we want to do. We really are trying to create a beacon that will be an example for other community members. I know there's not a lot of detail at this point, but we're dedicated to really creating an exceptional community that will elevate Saratoga Springs for everyone.
Okay. Comments from the council? Councilman Porter?
I'd just like to, I know that there's been a lot of work put into this. I'd like to thank representatives from SLR for meeting with us earlier to address some of the concerns and making an effort at that. And then also the comment was made about schools. We're not allowed to really weigh in on that due to state law. However, I would encourage you to at least approach the school district and have discussions. So I'm sure I know. But.
He just wants to encourage you to do what you're doing.
Keep it up. So yeah, that covers my comments. So.
Councilman Podeska?
Yeah, again, thank you for the work that's been done on this. One of the things that I did like is looking at the dual use or the dual use of the detention basins.
Mm-hmm.
That I always feel like detention basins are kind of a waste of space. Right. They're needed for that 100-year flood. However, trying to get those to be utilized more, I think it's a great opportunities there. Thank you for the explanation on the buffer on that south end. That makes sense to me as far as trying to be seamless between the neighborhoods there. Also trying to feather the products as much as possible between the existing neighborhood into the new.
One of the questions I had, though, as far as I don't know who to address this to, or when we address this, as far as the accessory dwelling units. So as far as it's currently the infrastructure that's currently planned for, is that planning for accessory dwelling units as far as the capacity for sewer, water? Because at this point we don't really know how many ADUs are going to be in that area.
Excuse me if I could take that. Yeah. What you're entitling the community plan to is an overall density, and so those accessory dwelling units would be part of that density. And obviously, you know, as we address that, as the village plans come in, all of the infrastructure will be looked at. We've looked at master plan infrastructure for that total number, and we've got in the community plan that master plan for how we go about doing that, and then obviously each village plan, as we continue to work through the process, we would narrow that down. Again, it's tough when you have just a big chunk of acreage and knowing exactly what's going to need to get built, but they've been great to work with, and we've taken a lot of the master planning and addressed a lot of that, so it would be counted as part of that.
So as far as like the parking requirements and ADU code and all that, that would be handled at a village plan level?
That's, I believe, I mean, because the community plan doesn't address some of those issues, we would certainly need to put more rules and regulations relative to the ADU.
What about the utility requirements?
As far as the utility requirements, yes, that would be something that would also be addressed at that level. That's when you start to get into the micro details of what does the construction drawings look like and things of that nature. So certainly something that would be very appropriate at that level. We have looked at it from a master plan standpoint, and we've figured out how to master plan service the area. But as far as the granular details of water lines and sewer lines and things like that, some of those things will have to get worked out as we see the village plans coming in.
Because with the ADUs, accessory dwelling units, just kind of seeing like the minimum lot sizes, a lot of them are super small already. And so that's where I don't really know like where the ADUs are going to fit. And so what kind of the rationale behind bringing in that ADU requirement. So again, I don't know if that's addressed at a community plan. I'm happy to address it at village level.
Yeah, with the ADUs, obviously those details we worked out at village plan. You know, we're gonna have to look at, okay, how big is an ADU going to be? How many parking stalls is it going to be? Can it be detached? And yeah, the smaller lots probably weren't going to be conducive to have an ADU anyway. And I suspect you probably won't get a lot of them. Probably more assigned to the bigger lots, but all those details, the development standards will be in the village plan at that point.
So that won't hold up the community plan?
No, and one thing that I think is unique is ADUs are currently not allowed anywhere else in the city, and it is something that can be allowed according to the district area plan. And so as we've talked before about incorporating accessory dwelling units, this is a perfect location because there's not a condition where, say, other people have bought into the neighborhood expecting it to stay, you know, to not have accessory dwelling units. So this will provide for the mother-in-law basement apartments or the kids moving in apartments or there's just all kinds of opportunities, but the zoning in here is unique that it allows it, whereas it's not been allowed in other portions of the city. So it is a void that we currently have, but part of our affordable housing plan includes the incorporation of accessory dwelling units so that we can reach our affordable housing goals. And so this is one way that we can work towards that.
And we can have that discussion when we actually start drafting the code.
Absolutely.
As far as if it's actually affordable or not.
Affordable is subjective.
It really is.
If it's your in-laws, it's really affordable.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, just quick background. I mean, we've had meetings on ADUs with ULCT and and it really isn't going to be affordable. The ADUs that have currently been in practice in the state, Provo is one of them, and those units are going for $1,000 to $1,200 a month. So I don't know how that's being affordable. The other aspect is that once they're built, it increases the land value of that single-family home, and so that increases the mortgage for that owner when they sell. And so when they go to the new owner that buys, they're increasing the rent on the ADU to compensate for the higher mortgage.
Yeah, as this is a framework plan, we wanted to allow as much as possible and implement it only where appropriate. So we want to take the best of planned communities and traditional neighborhoods and really marry them together. And so we've allowed a lot of things that we might not actually implement, and it will be on case by case at that village plan level.
Great. Other than that, I'm good with the exemption on the dark sky ordinance for the special project in conjunction of it being conditional on non-residential commercial use, or however they phrased it earlier. Ecclesiastical use, yeah. And that's all I have, so thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Barch.
Thank you, Mayor. So when I first saw this plan, I was really actually quite angry, because one of the things that this area was always supposed to be was the large lots. And we have no large lots. So you've done a better job in saying that you're going to be feathering across that south edge from where those homes are. It's still not great. To be honest, this was going to be the area. There's no other place in the whole 2,800 acres where truly large lots, quarter acre, half acre lots are actually going to work very well because of the proximity to commercial and things like that. So not super pleased, but grateful that you were at least trying to feather from those southern homes and willing to match up those fence lines a little bit better in that area. As far as open space goes, one of the things that we've talked about is that although the master developer doesn't want to have a master HOA, we are making it possible for the city to create basically that master HOA and turn some of these areas over to that master HOA so that the citizens as a whole in the city are not maintaining those areas that are really beneficial, not to the whole city, but beneficial to those direct residents. And so I appreciate those items of verbiage being put in to allow us to be able to do that. That's one of the things that we try really hard to do, is to make sure that those who are receiving the benefits are paying for those benefits. Question on your entrance parks. You're showing the entrance parks just west of the junior high, and really you're leaving Bridger completely out of that. You're showing the monuments there and everything else, and so basically you're taking those homes that are in Bridger and it's almost like they're not really part of the development. So are you going to be putting monumentation and an entry park there at Bridger as well, at Redwood Road?
So Bridger has a whole larger strip of landscape and open space along its edge. Because the junior high is there, that's really the entrance to the rest of the development. So it will have sort of a border that sort of incorporates it in. However, yeah, we're not having traditional monumentation like a lot of other neighborhoods are. We didn't want to brand it too heavily because that dates really easily. So we wanted to brand more through our furnishings and through the strong architectural styles and that sort of thing that will be controlled and curated by our architectural review committee.
I just want to make sure that that sub-association feels like they're actually part of the development and not that they're the outcasts relegated to
Yes, we want no redheaded stepchildren.
Being a ginger, I do want to make one clarification, and I have to apologize. I did receive a question from Councilmember McComber last week, and I apologize. I forgot to follow up with you. I did talk with the applicant. They are working with Alpine School District at trying to look at that intersection on Redwood Road and look at how we can make some enhancements for the landscaping in that area. And so I apologize. I did not communicate that with any of you prior to that, and that was something that we have discussed, and they are reaching out to Alpine School District to look at trying to continue that magnificent entry feature. It wouldn't be the same, obviously, as once you get a little bit further in on Founders Boulevard, but they would be looking to try and, enhance that area. And we've got to remember there's going to be a junior high there, so there's going to be a ton of open space right there on that entry corridor because the fields will back Redwood Road. So, but to your point and your specific question, we did talk about that, and I apologize for not communicating with the council before now.
Okay, no worries. So let's see. Also, where's we at? So this is something that the rest of the council I don't think agrees with me on, but I'm going to say it for the public record. As you read through the DAP, the open space of the boulevard, the applicant is trying to count from back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk, including asphalt of slip lanes and the actual boulevard as open space. I had a friend snarkily comment that she and her husband are going to go out and picnic in the middle of the boulevard since it's open space. But really, as you go through and you read through, as I read through the DAP, counting the actual asphalt as open space is disingenuous to say the least. And I realize that the rest of council doesn't necessarily agree with that, and I think that Councilman McComber is talking about a way to make sure that this only happens in this one area. I just think that this sets a really bad precedent, and so for me, I don't think that that is something that we should be approving. As far as the detention basins go, normally we wouldn't accept parks under 5 acres in open space areas. The detention basin in Eastmond, where it is attached to the city park, that's something that we would look at because it would be contiguous parcel. The one in Cutler Valley, we wouldn't normally accept. It's not contiguous to anything. Where we have the ability to turn it over to the HOA, we would do that. And normally we wouldn't count 50% of a detention basin because it's sensitive lands as open space. Where the applicant is talking about highly amenitizing these detention basins, that does change it a little bit, and thus the exception to be able to count all of the detention basin as open space. Let's see. Also, sorry, I'm going through my notes. So many of the council have taken, which is great. I love it when we all think alike, so it's good. I do have concerns on some of the amenities. I really love the stylization and the different I guess just styles basically of benches and parks and community plans. I do have some concerns about allowing wooden fences and wooden benches. And that's one of the things when we go through and do the city park, for example, I realize that the developer is going to be building it and then turning it over to us. But that's one thing that it's a lot more maintenance, a lot more yearly maintenance. So like the faux wood, the composite woods would be better, but that's something that I encourage you to work with. It's horrible. It just gets slivers, and you have to restain it and sand it every year. And
yeah, I mean, obviously, as a designer, my preference would be like Ipe, where it naturally weathers, but you don't have to really treat it and that sort of thing. There is a price tag associated with that, I understand. We're going to work with those village plans to really make sure it's something that's acceptable to everyone and that it's appropriate for the placement, and really make sure that we're being good neighbors.
Well,
I just threw my wood bench away.
Yeah, I did too, yeah. But especially on the city park itself, please work with staff and so they can make sure that we're going to be able to maintain that to a high standard. There are some things that, you know, the wooden picnic benches out at the RC park, or that's not something we did, that's something the county did, and they're not in the greatest shape. So, along with the village theming, who is going to set the theme for each village? Is each village going to have its own theme? Are you going to have multiple themes per village? How is that going to work?
I would say that will be part of the master developer working with the builders to sort of set the tone for that village. I would guess that there would be one theme per village. There might be an exception, but it would seem like these are sort of small villages to begin with, that one style per village would.
And are you going to carry that through into all of the housing, or is it just going to be mostly the amenities and then the houses will have a various
So the housing
styles?
should respond to it. We're going to have an architectural review committee to sort of curate these because we want to mimic traditional neighborhoods where they grow up more organically. So we don't want to say, okay, they all have to be cookie cutter, you know, beige and brown, that sort of thing. So we're going to work with builders to see what they offer. Village 1A is going to be custom to semi-custom homes. The other ones, we don't have a partner on board at this time, but we'll be working with them to sort of curate those and make sure that.
Can you tell us who that partner is yet? Not yet?
Not yet.
I have, just to interject, talked with Thane and Steve about having multiple builders, so we don't have like a Ivory bakery. and that you guys have been amenable to it. I know you've talked with multiple builders, so I think they're really trying to meet you what you're asking for.
Excellent. Okay. So you're aware there's a huge contradiction between page 23 and page 71 when you're talking about ARC submittals. So on page 23, it says that the city won't have anything to do with ARC submittals, et cetera. Page 71 specifically says the ARC will always submit an approval to the building department, which is actually really our preference to know that it's been done as it's supposed to be. So I just want to make sure that those get aligned so the ARC approval has the same wording on both 23 and 71.
Yeah, the intent was that the city would get a letter of approval, that they wouldn't have to do any other checkups. It would just be, okay, everything has been stamped by our committee. That way you don't have to worry about any sort of headaches.
Good, thank you. Also, there's a note in there on the city-owned trails on page 28 that they will all be concrete, and there are situations where we have other types of trails, and so I'm wondering if we can just say city-owned trails will be concrete or per city code.
Or
if that's
match up with another trail or something.
Something like that, because we do have some asphalt trails, or per city policy. Because most of them are concrete, but once in a while we have some different ones. Okay. Also, one of the things that I would like to see is on page 29, talking about the architectural standards. One of the things we've tried really hard to do is to make sure that we have four-sided architecture on our commercial and all of our multifamily. And while they have called that out on some of the arterials and other places, they haven't done that as wholesale for the commercial and the multifamily. And that's something that we've tried really hard to do. So I think if I remember right from our conversations previously, the applicant doesn't have a problem at all with the commercial, doing that on the commercial. They had some heartache about doing that on the multifamily. So I wanted to see what the rest of the council wanted to do on that one once you get to your times. On our fencing, I would like to have some kind of a guarantee that our external fencing, especially along the main roads, are going to be fairly consistent. So we don't have every single house have a different type of fence along an arterial. And I didn't see, or a main road, I didn't see anything in the community plan that called that out within the fencing code.
Yes, we don't have that in there at this time. We figured that would be a village plan per the village style. We'd set that standard at the village plan level.
Okay. And then a concern on the trend stone that's called out in the fencing. So trend stone is cinder block. And they're calling out cinder block as being allowed without having anything, any limitations, any relief, any changes in color, surface, anything like that. So that's something we're going to want to look at again at village plan. I can see it as part of a fence, but I would not want to see a solid cinder block wall. And that's what it could actually be. So we'll have to be careful on that one. Also, on the fencing note, page 35 again. So fencing, I think we need to make sure that fencing other than the city park fencing is not going to be maintained by the city. I don't want to have us maintaining all of their backyard fences when we're not maintaining the open space. So I don't know how we want to put that, if we want to put verbiage in there just saying that maintained by the city or its assignee in case we turn it over to an HOA.
So real quick,
yeah.
How would you, what is your concern there? Can you how you want that worded?
It's just that the city or its assignee would maintain the fence, just because I don't want to be maintaining private backyard fences if an HOA would want to do that, but that's not something that we do as a city, except for in a very few rare cases.
Okay.
I would just, if that is your concern and that's the rest of the council's concern as well, I would just specify that the HOA is going to maintain that for the property owner, because if you put city, you're asking the assignee, whatever.
Yeah.
That presumes the city is responsible for it and is making sure that someone else takes that assignment. So if that's a concern, let's get it addressed now.
Just by property owner or HOA? Okay.
I don't know how that works with everything else. Hopefully it doesn't create other problems, but certainly I think that's a concern because that council and the city prioritize this.
Yeah. Just so, for example, in my neighborhood along the boulevard, those back fences are all maintained by the HOA. It's not maintained by the
My HOA is the same
But,
way.
yeah, and it makes it so it's consistent, but also so that the city doesn't have to bear the burden of maintaining others' backyard fences. So, thank you to Councilman Podeska for bringing up the ADU comments. Those are something that I think I would like to see us actually address in general, not just per village plan, but kind of set out our general guidelines and goals for ADUs and what some of those requirements we think might be, especially as pertaining to infrastructure, whether or not we think they should have a separate meter, for example, power meter, water meter, whether or not they need to have extra parking, all those kinds of things. So thank you for bringing that up, and I agree with discussing that. Also, I have a great concern on page 70. It says that detached garages can be on the property line against open space or up against a church or commercial use. And that would be basically using somebody's detached garage as a wall to a commercial piece or to open space, which is not something we've allowed anyplace else. In addition, that puts quite a large depending on how big the detached garage is, it could be quite large, it could be quite tall and block those views. So that's something that I would like to say that they need to have at least that 5-foot setback like is required every place else. Even along their own alleyways, that's where they're having, along the alleyway where they're having no setback whatsoever, they require the fences to be set back 5 foot, but that's on a private alleyway, not onto somebody else's property. So they would be ownership on that alleyway, but onto somebody else's property, you're actually infringing on that other person's property rights. Also, there's a contradiction on your page 26. On the exhibit on page 26, it says that there's a 500 square foot minimum. Your page 70 says that there's a 600 square foot minimum on your multifamily housing. So that needs to be changed on the exhibit on page 26 to be the same as the requirements that you mentioned earlier of 600 square feet. Okay. Just a comment as you're going through and fixing things, please label all your exhibits. This is exhibit 1, this is exhibit 2, because you've got a lot in there that actually aren't. So you say refer to exhibit 1, but there actually isn't an exhibit 1. It's got a name on it. So just correlate those, and that's something you can change separately. I think those are all of my comments. Just a comment to the residents that are out there. We actually do regularly meet with the school district and try to plan and coordinate with them. They obviously have funding issues, and per the state legislature, that's not something that we can help with through impact fees. So our hands are a little bit tied there. It would be nice if the district worked a little bit better with us and didn't buy land where there is no infrastructure and no access, and then say, hey, we're going to put a junior high here. Not the current one that's being built, another one that they just recently did. But it would be excellent if they were better partners in that area. We try really hard to be good partners with them. So we're trying to make sure that our schools aren't overcrowded, but there's not a lot that we can do, as was mentioned earlier. Those are my main comments. Thanks.
Okay, Councilman McComber.
So I think that really what I'd like to do is if we can go back to the condition page, that'd be great. Thanks. So I'd like to, I think at the community plan, for me personally, again, I'm one of 5, I'd like to see the conditions not get excessive at this point, but a lot of these things, and Councilman Barch, I hope that you understand that I think many of the things that you brought up are fantastic, and I appreciate, especially like the 5-foot setbacks, the fencing consistency and all that. But I believe that we can, from my experience, handle that at the village plan level. So when a village plan comes in, we can say that you can't have that 0 lot line on that public space because it's infringing on, but if it's on their private property and they want to do that and they believe that they can sell that product, then give them that right. But I think we can handle that. I think mentioning it, getting it out there, letting them know we're aware of it, also I think helps them prevent them maybe from bringing it in the future. I think that's really what you were looking to do to a degree, is to make them aware that we are aware, that you are aware of that, and bringing it to our attention. For me, I'm looking at the condition list. On condition 6, I don't think that is necessary on that south end because I agree with, I don't want dead space. We're actually dealing with that a little bit from the Legacy Farms product. on the trail that was on the SHOA, there was a section that sort of ended up being a dead space, and Legacy Farms isn't maintaining it as well, and there are arguments on who's maintaining it on the southern exposure of Legacy Farms. So the same kind of thing happened. I would rather just see people having that as their backyard and maintaining that. Obviously, don't come with that village plan, ask for a reduction in setback on the, now that we're maybe potentially not going to require that 20-foot.
We have an alternative 20-foot buffer that it just exempts the condition that it cannot be in a backyard. So other than that,
you're looking at maybe even
it.
extending the back setback from 15 to 20, potentially to create that kind of buffer without having it be
dead space,
right,
where it'd just be
because you're not incorporating a trail down this. That doesn't make sense to put a trail down between these two neighborhoods. It would actually,
not any destinations.
Doesn't really require it. You're better off connecting with all the work you're doing on Founders with the bike lanes and the sidewalks, the nice sidewalks on both sides. That connects down into the Saratoga Springs HOA, which connects to the Utah Lake Trail System, which connects to the Jordan River Trail System. So I think that there's some nice connectivity, and I know Councilman Barch likes to see connectivity in our trail systems, and this actually does very nicely connect. I've decided I was going to maybe put a condition in saying if you can, if possible, work with the school district. Since you already are, I'm not going to, at least if that comes up. I'm not going to be fighting for that. But that was mine. I think that the road is in a good place. They haven't even put the infrastructure under the road yet. It's great time to negotiate and create that consistency, because you have a nice island on the east side of Redwood Road, and you would create some beautiful connectivity all the way to Utah Lake, not just stopping at Redwood Road or 500 yards short of Redwood Road, and then it narrows down. Also, because there's a junior high, having more open field there is going to make it a lot more comfortable, especially down the road, 2-lane, turning left onto Redwood Road, all the things that are going to be necessary, like we see at Grandview. Since Grandview has a lot of homes as well, and they went to the 2 left-hand turn lane, little to no problems.
Yeah.
There's not even a backup on Redwood Road, and so honestly, I think that you don't want to see cars piling up in a line waiting to get out, going all the way up Founders Boulevard either, and I know that. So we'll work, as long as you continue to work with the school district, that would be great. And then, so then on condition 7, the dark sky exemption, this seems a little bit wordsmithy. Is this saying that the dark sky exemption does not take effect until the development in the special project area is identified? That seems a little manipulative to me. I think that we just, or the ecclesiastical potential, I think that's what the term has been used, that if it doesn't meet that intent, then we take it away at the village plan. But I don't think we really need a condition here. I don't want it to come across that they're trying to manipulate the property owner to tell us what's going in there when they're not ready to tell us. That's just me personally. I'd rather just let us, we can take it away at the village plan if it's not an ecclesiastical use that would justify the dark sky exemption. And I believe, Kevin, you told me that that would be potentially possible if we come to the village plan and it doesn't meet the intent.
You want to modify that condition to specify that it's allowed, the exemption of the dark sky
is allowed as long as it meets the intent.
For ecclesiastical purposes.
Okay. And that's okay? Okay. And then, I've got to get my eyes done again. On the trails, I'm going to put in there, because I do like the idea that we have consistency, the trails concrete, and then, and I'm not going to put I personally don't think it necessarily should be a shall, but may be contiguous or consistent in the plan. So if it's an asphalt trail that you're connecting to your neighborhood, you continue that as an asphalt trail. The reason why is some people don't like running on cement. They only want to run on asphalt. And then you're not encouraging them to run on the road, which isn't the best. You know, you want them to be on trails, and because cement is harder on your knees. So I like the cement because cement is nicer, but if it's not consistent with the regional trail, so I would feel more comfortable just not forcing you to do it, but be considerate of that as we go through that. Is that okay?
Yeah, we had run into that comment from other city staff members earlier that they asked us to only do concrete.
It was a planning commission.
We're fine with asphalt.
Where appropriate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would prefer the cement. I like the cement, but if you have asphalt coming in and that it dead ends and it going from asphalt to cement, that seam becomes really problematic.
Yeah.
And so what we're just saying is then continue the asphalt if it is to city policy.
Yeah, I believe it was a maintenance issue and not like a preference issue. They said only concrete would be maintained by the city.
Yeah, and that's the planning commission, and they can, if they want to demand something, then they can run for office. I don't mean to be rude to the planning commission, but they're a recommending body, right? And so we take the recommendations. Did I take that one out? The four-sided architecture on the commercial, that I'm wondering, are you okay with a condition that does say the four-sided architecture on our commercial? Because you do have that, you added that element, and I didn't catch that, and that is a real concern of mine, that we have that four-sided architecture. We demand that consistently everywhere we have commercial.
I probably need to be very careful in the way that I express this because I don't want it to come across wrong. But we've put a lot of work into this particular community plan, and there will be a lot of detail added in the village plan, and we're absolutely okay with additional requirements for four-sided architecture in the village plan. But our group is asking that this community plan not be altered at this point. To add something like that.
Okay. So just be prepared that at the village plan level, we would absolutely not approve a village plan without four-sided architecture, period, on that commercial. And even on your multifamily housing, the four-sided architecture is it's not the same as what we do talk about commercial, but just, I mean, look across the street, right? Legacy Farms did not think about Redwood Road, and she's smiling, and they regret it now. I mean, let's not create, I really appreciate your presentation actually and how you talked about especially areas that are facing major transportation, Redwood Road, to make those look nice, to make it appealing to come into the neighborhood. That's really where we're coming up on that when we're talking multifamily or the housing that backs onto Redwood Road, or even, well, Founders, you've got them facing the right way, so you're gonna have a lot of that architecture. But just know that at the village plan level, there will be more detail around that. So I'm okay then. And then on the fencing, the same thing. Again, I appreciated Councilwoman Barch's, but I believe that we can address that at the village plan because it might be slightly different fencing requirements for each village plan if that is part of your theming. I personally, and I think we had a lot of nods and I heard a lot of comments, I like diversity. One of the things I don't want is this entire neighborhood to be exactly the same. Yeah. And I don't think you do either, and the village plans and their mayors even talked to you about this. So we're actually really a big fan. There's some councils that like this consistent look, and that's not here. We really would love to see some diversity. I love that the pavilions could be quite different, maybe, you know, that kind of thing, to create a real feel like you're in one neighborhood or another. And it also creates a sense of pride in your own little community and in the greater Beacon Point. And I really appreciated the history and background behind the naming of Beacon Point. I had a chance to work on the charrettes. And we worked really hard on the whole 3,000 acres. And worked closely with Councilman Bud Podesta as well. Mayor Miller was involved quite a bit. There was a lot of conversations. I remember, gosh, I remember when he brought it up. And he referred to Saratoga Springs as being a beacon, so. Just 1 second, please. And part of the charrette as well is we talked about accessory dwelling units. And this is my last point. That was actually supposed to be a feature of this community and where it is appropriate. And I definitely appreciate the concerns, and I think that you do as well. And obviously, I think they will come in with bigger lot sizes if they're gonna do basically a duplex on that property. And I know that you're not gonna try and create something ugly in this area. It just doesn't make sense. And at the village plan level, we'll be able to vet that out and make sure that it does work and apply. I do like the idea of having family be able to live close. That's a cool concept. If we do it right, it can become an amazing amenity to Saratoga Springs and to this area in particular. The special project demands potential of grandparents and things who are living, want to live close to a special project like this, who can live with their family and have their own personal space and a sense of home. And so if we do it right, it can truly be amazing. So I think at the village plan level, if that does happen and it comes in, we can vet that out and make sure that it works and it is a success. So I really appreciate all the work that has gone into this, and I look forward to the village plans and working through the details and making sure that it works right. Nothing against, I mean, we just have a history. Some of us have been on the council longer than others, and we've had different projects come through and different things happen. And so sometimes we can come across or seem like we're being nitpicky, but it's not. We're just doing our jobs. And, you know, and I really appreciate Councilman Barch. Sometimes it can be seen one way or another, but she really does care about the city. And I know that we'll be able to make this a success. And so I turn my time back over to the mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Wilden.
Thank you. Most people don't know. I mean, I've been on the council for 5 years, but 5 years before that, I had to look it up. I was appointed to the finance committee, so I've been with the city for 10 years, which I actually think technically, not an elected official perspective, but just coordination with the city beats that. But of course, 5 years on the finance committee wasn't looking at developments. But I do remember when this came in and the city council and the mayor at the time asked us, not this specific, but when SLR, what I meant, annexed into the city. I remember the city council and the mayor at the time had us look at it, and it was a significant benefit to the city because of what was done. We have access to water. And if we wouldn't have had done that as a city and the council at the time done that, water would be much more expensive and hard to come by now. And so it's been a long 10-year relationship. I know everything hasn't gone perfectly as we'd like, but I think we've been able to be good partners and work things out, both SLR and DAI. I don't know if they're involved. No, DAI is totally different. What's the other? PRI, thank you.
One of the acronyms.
Yeah, PRI. And it's been a good relationship, and it's been 10 years and probably 10 to 15 years more. I'm not saying I'm going to be on the city council for 10 to 15 more years, and I'm not going back to finance committee either. I know, there's no place for me when I'm done here. And I'm not doing the library board either. I've already done that. But anyway, I just point that out because I've personally had a long history, and I appreciate the partnership, and I appreciate, to Councilmember McComber's comments, is 10 years to build a beacon community. And we're here, and I think it's exciting, it's fantastic, and it's been a great amenity not amenity, but it's a great thing for the city. The ADUs putting in there, I think it's fantastic. It not only will help us keep our nose clean for the state requirements that may or may not come out. They're always putting something in there. But then it's also a perfect place to do it because people move in there knowing that's an option. So I think that's fantastic, and we can work that out of the village plan. I really like the main boulevard because there's conversations that shouldn't count as open space, but what you've done is you've maintained a view corridor from the top to the lake. That's open space. Yeah, there's different type of open spaces. People aren't going to sit in the middle of the road, but there's very few places in the city that will maintain that long of a corridor to see the view of the lake. That is, in my book, open space, and I will argue to the death on that one. And I really like the cross-section there. It's unique for the city, and it's nice to have something unique in the city, right? You know, we get so focused on same fence, same house, whatever, same road cross-section. It's one thing if we're putting in a cross-section that really creates major problems, but this won't, and it'll be, excuse me, a nice, different thing for the city, and will work really well there. Really like the names. I won't speak too much to it because I don't want to.
To the porter, we like to tease them.
No, that's not where I was going, but I really, that is funny.
He lobbied us to put that name in there, by the way.
Yeah.
He's just
Is it
kidding.
Rockwell Porter or Porter Rockwell? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. No one's naming anything after him. I'm sorry, I shouldn't
Like
say
Wilden
that.
Boulevard, though.
But where I was going is similar to Councilman McComber. I don't remember all those specific conversations, but what a neat just naming that'll be in there. So it'll really set it up to be a beacon for a very, very long time. Similarly, the 20-foot buffer, I'm in favor of removing that condition because it's same reasons. I'm not going to regurgitate what's saying, but you said it very well.
I'm just going to put it can be included in backyard. Is that, that's
That's
so
the language we
we
have.
remove it. I'm going to just refine it a little bit.
Can be part of the backyard. So, and similar on the dark sky ordinance, I think it can be worked out in the village plan. I don't have any concerns there. I'm going through my notes. I had different points and I kept moving things around. But then similar on the trails, we're not adding requirements, we're actually granting you flexibility. And my question to Kevin, on the dark sky ordinance exception, could we make, when we haven't done this before, instead of a condition, could it be a finding as we're approving an exception with the understanding of the intent that it would be for ecclesiastical purpose? So it's now like a finding versus an exemption or a condition. But I'm fine with it not in at all. So I'll just.
Isn't isn't that how it's defined? I mean, that's how the special project area is already defined as an ecclesiastical use. So I'm not sure.
So it's already in there. So
It's in there. I think we're going to get more specific at the village plan level.
okay, well, that was just trying to see if we can get everyone.
Kevin, you could do it.
I'm just trying to get everyone comfortable here, but I'm, yeah.
Councilwoman Barch
Just
has a-
in the community plan, it actually says the special project site is the only open space exempt from the dark sky initiative. So it says that in the CP. I think we're covered.
Perfect. I wasn't trying to add different things. I just wanted to make this work and not add extra unnecessary conditions. So I like pulling that there. I think I've spoken enough, but I appreciate the relationship and many more years to come. So,
Councilman Porter.
I would just like to point out that this is not being named after me or any of my ancestors. I'm constantly asked if I'm related to Porter Rockwell, and I am always like, it's his first name. But
with the goatee.
I haven't got it quite going down here yet. So anyway, and the Wilden did have the Wilson Farms or whatever. I think it was Wilden Farms originally, but we had to change that. So
wait.
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay, Councilman McComber.
I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Beacon Point Community Plan, Suburban Land Reserve, applicant Parkway Boulevard and Redwood Road, Ordinance 18-40, dated today, with all staff findings and conditions, with condition 6 saying retain a 20-foot exterior buffer but may include backyards, and condition 7 where it says the dark sky exemption for ecclesiastical purpose, and not saying anything about it won't take effect until it's identified, but just as long as it's for ecclesiastical purposes, the dark sky exemption for ecclesiastical purposes.
I have a first from Councilman McComber.
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion on the motion?
One question on item 7. Since it's already in the community plan, Councilwoman Barge mentioned this. Since it's already in the community plan, just as part of proving it, since it already talks about that, I think we can just pull it out altogether.
Yeah, it doesn't say it's ecclesiastical. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. So we have it just, it says,
It says special project is the only open space exempt from the dark sky initiative where uplighting may, but it doesn't say, call out specifically that the dark sky is because it's ecclesiastical.
Okay, so
It's identified as ecclesiastical purposes
as the whole.
In the DAP.
The 1B, right?
in the
As 1B, as it says it's for ecclesiastical purposes. So I think then really might be redundant, but I say we leave the condition, Councilwoman, if you're okay, the dark sky exemption for ecclesiastical purpose.
That's consistent with the community.
Okay, so then we're just maybe being a little redundant, but it's consistent. Okay. So I'm going to remain it. Okay.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Podeska?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
And you know that those plans are going to be more scrutinized.
Oh, yeah, as we expect.
You'll stay with Plan 1 in weeks, hopefully.
Great. I know I have a list of people who want to buy lots, so when you're ready, just let me know.
He'll have you sold out before you get to village plan.
I literally have 10 people who are interested in lots. So, yeah, let's talk.
And if they're McComber friends, he'll give them a discount, 10 grand above market.
That was awesome.
That was good. So I'm seriously, I have like 10 people like, please,
Okay.
as soon as it's available, let us know.
It is 8 o'clock. Let's try and get through this agenda. Fiscal year 2018 audit acceptance. Wilden has been waiting for this.
Mayor, City Council, is this on? Mayor, City Council, I'm pleased to announce that the audit from fiscal year 2018 was completed this last month. In the packet is also a draft of our comprehensive annual financial report, which includes all the financial statements from this last fiscal year. If you have any questions, you can address them to me now, or I'm going to turn the time over to our auditor for a few minutes. He's Ron Stewart from Gilbert & Stewart, a firm out of Provo, so if I can have him come up and speak for a few minutes.
Thank you. Like I said, my name is Ron Stewart, a partner with Gilbert & Stewart CPAs. We were contracted to do the audit for this fiscal year. We're hired to give you an opinion on the financial statements of the city. What we did to obtain that opinion, we have looked at the records and the books of the city, performed a number of significant tests and procedures to make sure that the balances that we have and what you're seeing on the financial statements are materially correct. We feel like we've done that, and so that we can give an opinion that the city has an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion or the best opinion that you can receive. In addition to looking at the books of the city or the records of the city, we also look at internal controls, state compliance, and just make sure that things are being run in a proper way. And we feel that those things are happening. We feel like the city has good controls, that those controls are designed and that they're implemented and they're working properly. So I'll be brief, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you.
Any questions? I don't see any lights. Oh, wait, and there you go.
Will you just tell us, were there any significant findings or things that we should be concerned, just so that's on the record besides being?
The only finding that was there is there's a budgetary compliance issue with some funds that were given to a developer, and it's mostly an accounting issue. I think the city was planning on accounting it one way and needed to be accounted a different way, and so there was a budgetary finding there.
So if I could clarify, because that is a great response, but I don't want to leave any question. The special assessment area that we set up for Mount Saratoga, because we were approving the draws, we needed to account for it. It was accounted for, it was dealt with regarding the trust and the reimbursement of funds and all of that, but it did require a budgetary number on our side of the ledger, which we hadn't included in there. Everything was being dealt with according to the bond docs and the bond specifications and everything like that, but it was just a clarification in our budgeting practices to budget for those expenditures. And so I appreciate that, and I just wanted to, from that standpoint, it was simply because of the special assessment area and us reimbursing the developer the funds that they had pledged their property for. So it's kind of a unique thing. It was unique and new in the sense that we had just started the special assessment area and the bond draws and things like that in the last fiscal year.
Councilman Wilden.
I had no concern over that. I mean, I kind of read it and looked at it, and it's not a operational deficiency or anything like that. It's just an accounting entry. So I appreciated how it was written and the clarification. So it made complete sense to me.
All right, any other comments? I'll entertain a motion. Okay, let me give it to you. It's just not going. There it goes.
Oh, I am on now. I'll move that we approve the fiscal year 2018 audit acceptance.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Porter. Councilman Porter? You're voting.
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
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 Sorry, I should have let you call.
All right. They know your voice. The motion passes.
If I could just say real quick, thank you to the staff. They do a great job. We throw a lot at them, ask a lot of questions, make them do a lot of things, and they do it in a very professional and quick manner, and so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have the interlocal agreement with the City of Lehigh concerning storm drain improvement in Saratoga Road, 2300 West, Resolution R 18-60.
Yes, Mayor and Council, thank you. I'll tackle this. Jeremy can jump in if he needs to. This is just the storm drain line where we're going to replace it and upsize it, and we're going to basically keep Lehigh's storm drain flow in there, and this way we don't have to build basically 3 parallel lines right next to each other because of the geographic barriers that are there. We're appreciative of Lehigh for working with us on this. And Jeremy, is there any other clarification you want to add?
Hopefully explanatory if you read it, so happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Councilwoman Barch.
Has Lehigh already signed it?
Lehigh passed the at their last meeting a week or two ago.
Okay. Councilman Porter.
I just have a motion.
Oh, Councilman Wilden, do you have a comment? No. Okay.
I move that we approve the interlocal agreement with the City of Lehigh concerning storm drain improvement in Saratoga Road, Resolution R 18-60, dated today.
I have a first from Councilman Porter.
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion on the motion?
It's okay that the water mixes from Lehigh and Saratoga?
We improve the water quality.
We're helping them out.
So it downgrades us, is what
No.
Or we upgrade them.
This is something that Mark and Jeremy talked to Lehigh City Council back 6 months ago.
This makes
about
sense.
that.
As you read through it,
was
absolutely
smart,
makes
so
sense.
Thank you guys for flushing this out with Lehigh City and Lehigh City's willingness to work with us.
I already made my motion.
No.
I'm just waiting.
And I have a second. So I'm just saying, Councilman Podeska.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Barch.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
looks very
Award of bid for Public Works expansion project in the amount of $500,000 and approval of construction manager as constructor services agreement, Resolution R 18-61.
Constructor.
He's sitting here for the consolidated fee schedule.
Oh. Do you know what? Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
You have to wait.
I'm new to this.
I thought you were just staring at me.
Mayor and council, we are looking to do a public works expansion. This was budgeted in this year's fiscal budget. We put out a proposal for CMGC services similar to what we did with the police station. You were provided a spreadsheet of the proposals we got. Based on that information, we are recommending that the council award the CMGC contract to CERC Construction Services. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilwoman Barch.
Just a great big thank you to all of us for planning ahead. This has saved us millions by planning ahead and making sure that this was expandable. We knew it was going to have to expand. So I'm just grateful that we actually did plan ahead and that we're following through with that. That's it.
Okay. I'll enter Porter.
I just also want to say that great job on staff's part for being able to partner this up with the police station and give us
Yeah.
a great price on this, because
It's a great idea.
looking at the other ones, that's what we would have been paying otherwise, so.
That's great. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we award the bid for Public Works Expansion Project in the amount of $500,000 and approve construction manager as constructor services agreement, contractor services agreement, resolution R18-61 dated today.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilwoman Barch, a second from Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion on the motion?
I wanted to say constructor in the motion, so.
Okay. Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Pedeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion
last
passes
because of
unanimous.
He put you last. He put you last because of that.
I know. I read it and I was like, is that some sort of special thing? Some legalese from Kevin?
Mayor, if I could you put Heston out of his
We're
misery?
at
9 now.
Okay.
We already
Number
talked
9.
about it.
Move it
Sorry,
to the end of
Heston.
the agenda, is that what we're doing?
Mark, let me know of everybody else who was here that needed to be done, but
You
you.
were hiding in the corner.
Sorry, I tend to do that.
Fair-haired child stays a little longer.
But with all fairness, baseball's in queue, ready.
That was weird.
They're even doing indoor.
Well, Mayor, Council, you've had a chance probably to review this rental application, and we're just here to approve the fee schedule for that. If there's any questions, I can answer for you.
Okay, Councilman Porter?
I'm still on.
Well, Wilden has one he wants to.
Well, his thing popped up first.
All right, I just had one question. I was looking at the deposits for specifically for renting a field, and the deposits in both cases are larger than the actual payment. The deposit's $100 and the payment's $90 or $50 if you're renting just a single court or field. So I was just wondering if we wanted to make those match up so that we're not cutting people checks back.
Usually checks are just ripped out.
Yeah, typically we just don't cash those checks.
If that's fine, then I didn't understand why we were charging more than the full rental price.
Really what I've done through this is look to other cities and what they've kind of implemented, mostly Lehigh because they're right next to us and we want to be kind of similar to what they're doing. Spanish Fork is one I also looked at really closely because they do a lot of baseball rentals. This is fairly similar to what they're doing. Yes, they don't have pickleball courts, so just kind of working through that, but we can definitely look at that and see.
I mean, if you think it's an appropriate thing, that like if it's there to protect us if they ruin the court or something, that's one thing. But it just seemed odd to me that we were charging more for a deposit than the actual total rental would be.
Yeah, as far as what I know, the deposits are there for
cash
damage.
it, take out the rental price, and then refund them the difference. We just rip the check up. That's fine then.
Well, oftentimes we'll get deposits on credit card, with a credit card.
We can just put it
Right. So that's fine.
Okay, Councilman McComber?
So I just wanted, you answered the question, but my thing was, is this consistent with others? This is being a very new facility, very nice facility. We spent a lot of money. I just want to make sure that we're charging the right fees for this to match demand, to make sure that we're not so cheap that everyone tries to rent it out and then we don't have the ability to use it for our own needs, that
Right.
kind of thing.
So I've had a couple conversations, Rocky Mountain Baseball in particular. What I tried to do is I looked at Lehigh, and yes, our facility's going to be much better than theirs. So I didn't want to completely outprice them because then no one would ever use us because we're so much higher than them. But yes, we are a nicer facility. So our rental agreements our prices are higher than theirs, but not significantly higher than theirs.
So, and then are our bathrooms open all the time? Or are they only open when the fields are being used?
The bathrooms, it's an open park, so I believe they'll be open until like closing time. I'm not sure how Rick's got that worked out.
It'll depend kind of on winter months and stuff like that. From, winter, we wouldn't have them open in the dead of winter. If like the pickleball courts were unplayable and, there's some of those kinds of nuances that we would have. But generally speaking,
we can maybe keep one open and not the other if we have just pickleball, like if it's not baseball season.
It's certainly something we can look at from a usage standpoint because obviously, it'll be a use thing that we'll want to consider.
Yeah, just because one thing I've seen other cities do, I was actually surprised. There was like a little sign on the door that said, this is due to low utilization. This bathroom is closed, but there's one across the plaza. And then what they really were doing is then I got curious. This was in California, actually, and I went and asked the maintenance guy, and he said, we do this so that our bathrooms, one bathroom typically was getting used all the time and the other one wasn't, and it was deteriorating at a faster rate. And by making people use both, it allowed for it to deteriorate more evenly. So, but just a thought, that way you're replacing them both 20 years later versus the one every 5 years, kind of thing. So just a thought, I mean.
Okay, that really falls under Rick. They're going to be maintaining the bathrooms.
But just take that back to Rick. And so and then I just wanted to make sure that we had the right, the fee schedule, because like that doesn't include the concessions area, probably. That's another fee. Yeah. I didn't see that in here because it says the entire complex. So that makes me think the concession room too.
So we can add that wording into the agreement. Right now, I wasn't planning on renting out the concessions at this point.
But that would only be used for city purposes?
City purposes at this point.
But then tournaments really like to have access to that when they're doing
So we've discussed a lot the food trucks as being the most the primary option is what I'm looking
But what we can do is you often just take an overhead. They use our facility, they pay a small fee, and then you get 10% of the sales if they're using your concession room.
We can definitely look at that. We did consider that, but
it's some good revenue.
When designing, we purposefully did a kind of bare bones concession area. We didn't put in a grill and stuff like that.
That's true.
It's extremely expensive to do, and so and part of that was that the city would be using it, and then the food trucks would supplement that, as opposed to.
That was the original plan, yes.
Rather than providing full service, concessions that would be more lucrative.
But then also, if someone wanted to use that space for admissions, like for the teams coming, checking in, getting their supplies, getting their packets, that space could easily be used for them for that. And so
yeah, with like the competitive leagues and things that will be using it, they will be using our buildings. So with the full baseball rental, if they're not making money out of the concession stand, I don't have a problem with them using that room for that type of purpose.
So with that 450, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we're thinking of all the various revenue routes, because one of the ways that we're going to help cover the cost of this is through allowing tournaments to come and encouraging them to come. As you know, we talked about that from the very beginning.
One of the things in the administrative policy is that we can work with them. So like, for example, if they did want concessions, we would say, okay, fantastic, we can work with Underground Food League and we can get you food trucks. What kind of food trucks do you want? And then, Annalise can kind of arrange for those types of concessions. And from a practical standpoint, that's kind of how we've done, a lot of our events with Neptune Park and things like that, and they've been very successful. We will certainly work with them for that. At this point, though, I think, one thing that Heston and I both haven't said is we'd love to get the park up and running, and that's probably one of those details that we'll sort out about 6 months into the league as we get going into
the league will be over after 6 months.
Well, learn a lot in this first year.
We'll
the
learn
first
a lot,
season,
and,
you mean?
And I think that's one of those things that we want to kind of feel out those kinds of issues, and then be able to certainly add and adjust as we take that next step.
Just kind of some of my past discussions with other parks, recreation departments, concession stands really don't bring in all that much. It's not a huge revenue generator. Most people,
unless you're BYU, Marriott Center.
Well, those types of, yes.
They bring in amazing amounts of money.
You start serving 24-inch maple bars and we got this thing.
Yeah, so most recreation departments
you can actually order those.
We're glad you like them.
Sorry.
No, I agree. It needs to be an option.
You got loud. Wow. We all got really loud.
Yeah, what happened there?
I didn't push anything. Shelley yelled into the mic.
Look what you did.
I'll stand back.
It's okay.
All right.
We just turned the main volume down. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We definitely probably should have as an option. We'll work on that, as we go through the different leagues and stuff like that. But it really isn't a huge revenue generator. So
have we talked to? Is Pepsi at all expressed any interest in having like a Pepsi truck cart comes in that has their fountain drinks? If someone wanted to rent that, have we had any conversations with them? Good. They probably even have like a trailer that comes that has the fountain machines.
That's available to us, no charge. If there's someone that wanted to utilize that trailer, do sales out of that, and work something out.
Yeah, that's the thing is because it's our facility with the food trucks, and I understand that, it's a lot harder to get a percentage of the sales from the food trucks. But that's part of tournaments is you have the not so expensive fee, plus all of the participants coming are paying their fair portion of the fact that they are on an amazing playground. They're playing some pickleball in between games. They're, you know, walking down on the trails to are along the lake through their concession purchases, right? So that's another way that you can capture money. So I just want to know, I know that we're young and we're new, but we're not the first,
right?
You know, so other places have done a good job being able to capture this revenue. And so I know we can get it through Pepsi, but just wanted to make sure that even with the food trucks potentially, they're now putting pressure. Their food trucks are coming on our sidewalk. We built it up so that we could support it. Well, we spent more money to do that. So we should get a percentage of having the ability to have a food truck in the middle of our complex versus out in the parking lot, right? Because, I mean, you guys that was a really smart idea to make it so that the trucks can come right into the heart of the development. We made our sign tall enough so it can drive underneath, all of that. So I just want to make sure that we're capturing that. Mark, I saw that you have a...
Yeah, no, just we made it part of the administrative agreement to very clearly require them to use the Pepsi product consistent with our contract. So those are some of the things that we'd anticipated relative to that. But again, we appreciate your comments. We'll certainly take a look at that. And as we start to book tournaments, we'll feel this out and come back to you if we need additional.
Yeah, especially if Annalisa is spending a lot of her own resources and time to like book these trucks for them and help them. We should be recuperating some cost.
And I believe we do get some back from the food trucks.
Okay, great. I see the attorney, but whose mic is the attorney?
Oh, sorry. No, it was my mic that I pushed earlier. Kind of.
Okay. And that's it. Any other comments?
I'll push my own button. Huh?
Can't reach that far.
No, I was just going to ask. We didn't actually do heating inside the restroom facilities. I thought we were going to have to winterize them.
So they are designed to be winterized. I can't remember.
I thought we did a change order for that.
So that we could do heating?
I think they put I remember you did a change order for it.
I can't recall exactly all the elements.
Okay.
And that's the other part of that we'll have to look at.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. I will entertain a motion. Whoever wants to do it. Wilden's got it. I'm just going to light up. I'm doing everyone. Hold on.
Yep.
I'm just going to do all of them.
I move that we...
Go ahead.
Okay. I got a stink eye from Wilden. I move that we approve the consolidated fee schedule amendment for Patriot Park fees, resolution R18-63 dated today.
I have a first.
A second.
I have a first from Councilman Porter, and I have a second from Councilman Podeska. Any other discussion?
There's like two different dates on the agenda.
It should be today's date, the 4th, not the 5th.
Anyway.
You did say dated today, didn't you?
I dated today.
Yes,
so
that's consistent.
I was just making sure that today was actually
But I don't think we need to amend it, but you said, yeah, thank you for clarifying. Any other further discussion? Councilman Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber, aye. Barch?
Aye.
And Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We're now... Item 8, resolution initiating proceedings to amend Title 19 Land Use Development Code. Thank you, Heston. Have a nice day.
So with the limited Planning Commission council meetings we have this month, we thought we should get this on the council agenda to initiate the proceedings so that land use applications are subject to this ordinance change. It's the same thing we've talked about with identifying the transmission lines through map instead of trying to describe it and defer to Rocky Mountain Power. So really, it's a simple one. Any questions?
We're just on 8.
Okay.
We're basically, this is just that we start the process.
Okay.
I don't have any questions, but.
Okay. Councilman Podeska.
Can I do a motion on this?
Oh, go for it.
Councilwoman Barch.
Sorry, I did have one question. Just so this is just starting the proceedings, but I did have some questions and just about where we're marking which power lines were on there. It seems like the line that goes up Old Saratoga Road becomes 2300, goes further than necessary, only in that those are no longer transmission lines past, what is that, 145 North? They become regular distribution lines. So they should all be buried along Pirelli Meadows. Yeah, I know we're just starting it.
Yeah,
so
that's a good question. We can look into, we'll look into that and modify it if it is in fact a distribution line.
Okay. Councilman Podeska, unless Wilden, you have something?
No.
Okay.
And keep in mind that this will come back for the council to actually adopt. And so in the meantime, we'll look into that.
Okay. I move to, lost my place here, approve resolution initiating proceedings to amend Title 19 Land Use Development Code, Resolution R18-62, dated today.
Second.
Okay, first from Councilwoman Podeska, second from Councilwoman Barch. Our city engineer has a comment.
Councilwoman Barsh, in front of Pirelli along Saratoga Road, we're aware of those lines being distribution lines, and Pirelli Meadows does show that they are burying those lines. So,
excellent, thank you.
We caught that.
Perfect. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, Podeska.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Barch.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Number 10, the Northgate Development Agreement.
Council and Mayor, if you recall, back in October, you had a rezone in front of you. It was for about 17 acres, about 2500 North Redwood Road. It's called Saratoga Northgate. There are two zones that were requested. The east half of the property, adjacent to the west side of Redwood Road, you rezoned regional commercial. The west side of that half of that property, you approved a rezone to office warehouse conditioned upon a development agreement. So you have that development agreement in your packet today. Now, 3 things you wanted addressed in that development agreement were you wanted to eliminate auto-related uses. Now, I did asterisk some uses in there, which, yeah, they're auto-related. They'd probably be okay in the office warehouse. Car rental, fuel station, private, public, I would probably be okay with that. Your call, obviously, but I did point those out. We did add that all operations would be within the building itself. Now, you did ask for hours of operation. I didn't put that in there. I can certainly add that in there. It's your call. But I think with the elimination of outside, with the elimination of auto repair type uses, I'm thinking that you're probably not going to get things with a lot of noise. Again, your call, but I want to present that for any kind of discussion. We can certainly add that back in there.
Okay. Councilman Wilden.
I think for me, hours of operations, I get we can't control that, but it seems like in other places we've limited hours of delivery hours, I mean. And to me, that's actually a concern because they're butting up against residential homes, and I don't, yeah, we can't maybe control the hours of operations. Well, we could, I don't think we need to, but delivery hours, I think we certainly can, and that would be my...
If a use comes in as a conditional use, you can consider hours of operation as a condition. But on a permitted use, Kevin would have to chime in, but I don't know.
Unless we make it part of the master development agreement. That was part of the rezone, so.
So the only time you can, oh, I'm so sorry. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I think that we maybe have come across something that we need to address, is that if permitted use, we've given so much of that away, made all these things permitted, moved it to planning commission, moved it away. If we need to make sure that we are giving ourselves the opportunity to protect residents on delivery hours or even operational hours, we maybe need to relook at that.
May I?
Yeah.
I feel like we can do this here because it was a rezone conditional on doing the MDA, and we have legislative discretion on what we're going to put it in there. So even permitted and conditional, I want delivery hours restricted, or I'm going to vote no against this, because this is one of the things I committed to my neighborhood. It doesn't matter if it's my neighborhood, I'd commit it to any neighborhood in the city, because we're taking and putting office warehouse behind homes. So if we don't put it in there, I won't vote on it. I will vote.
I agree here for sure, but in the few other projects, I'm concerned that we maybe have a little loophole that we need to make sure that we're protected.
It is a good idea, and here's why. Conditional uses are a type of permitted use, as we kind of explained. And the standards are a little tricky because any conditions that are imposed have to be reasonable, and they have to address anticipated detrimental impacts. So it kind of established, the state law establishes a high burden when it comes to those conditions for conditional use permits. So absolutely, this is a good time to address that.
Big truck deliver at 2 a.m. with their beep, beep, going backwards is a good thing.
Yeah. Conditional uses are administrative decisions, and there's a lot of scrutiny on those. So leave it at the legislative level.
And that's where we are right now, right?
Yep.
EJ?
I was just going to add that when the applicant was here having that discussion in the first place. They seemed to be, I don't want to speak in their behalf, but seemed to be fine if you didn't have delivery hours during those evening hours, and they were of the opinion that the types of uses that they would be getting in there wouldn't have those sort of delivery hours. So I don't see any kind of issue from that perspective of, putting some sort of condition based on delivery hours. So
what did we do around, like, was it Maverick or Murphy's? What was it, like 11 to?
It was actually the opposite. We didn't want them doing deliveries in the middle of rush hour, morning rush hour.
Oh crap! There goes my example.
But it still was
restricting delivery
because there was a reason for limiting the hours. So this is a different reason. Therefore, it's a different hour, but it's still.
But it also wasn't adjacent to residential, which is your concern.
Yeah, I don't know what the right times are, but it's like 11 to 7 or something.
Well, what's our
night.
noise ordinance? 10 to
10.
10 to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yeah, that's a good example.
I would actually go earlier on the evening end though, only because if you're getting somebody backing up, going beep 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 at 9 o'clock at night, and all your kids are asleep and everything else.
Oh, there's the noise ordinance though.
But again, this is different because we're putting our own hours on here.
And if they don't like it, they don't have to sign it, and they can come back to us and tell us why.
Would you like me to talk? I mean, I assume you can move forward in making a decision but then I could talk to the applicant about that, or Dave could, about if they had any kind of, preference.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest. Throw it out there and we'll present it. The draft I gave to them, again, it didn't state those hours though. I was talking hours of operation. You're more focusing on delivery, it sounds like. I could have a closed business but say, okay, I'm going to show up for a delivery. I guess that could happen. But I would say, yeah, maybe just throw it out there. We'll present it to them. They don't have to sign it. And they don't get it rezoned.
They can come back. They can come back and ask.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should leave it open and come back.
Set the hours now, and if they're not comfortable, we'll bring it back. That's my suggestion. But
Podeska?
In regards to deliveries or whatnot, is there any way that we can propose having no excessive idling of the delivery trucks? I was reading through the notes and seeing that there's some concerns about pollution coming from the trucks in the back of the office warehouse, and so I just didn't know if we had any policies with office warehouse zoning as far as overnight parking of the trucks. If it's wintertime, they're going to be turning their trucks back on to get the heat going, and so just kind of looking out for during the night. So I don't know if there's any sort of signage or things that we can implement as far as overnight parking with the diesels, how long they're idling the trucks there.
As a legislative action, again, Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, as legislative action, you can certainly have that as a condition then.
So that would be a suggestion of mine.
Just my suggestion, I think trucks should enter from a clockwise direction in the evening and a counterclockwise before noon. Just 2 bits. No.
Anything else?
No, I'm mocking Will. No. The thought just on I just had a comment on the time. You know what, I think if we stick with our noise ordinance, it makes it easy for code enforcement to enforce. It's not, is this property 7 or is this one the one? It's 9 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock's noise. So anyways, Porter.
As far as the, the automotive uses, I am comfortable with removing the rental.
What about refueling stations, public or private?
They're allowed in the regional commercial, which is on the frontage.
Office warehouse, one of those is actually, I want to say the public is conditional, private is permitted. In the office warehouse.
I don't necessarily see the need to add them back in because you could put them in the regional commercial strip along the
Which would be the logical place to put it.
That's where you'd want to be anyway.
So we can take those 3 out of the agreement at least.
The only other one, I originally had a question about the ATV sales, but then it had repair as well. And so, because I don't mind necessarily a showroom for ATV or RVs.
So they always want to put them out front.
The way, I'd have to look it up. I want to say the way it's worded, it's ATV
both.
sales and service,
yeah.
I believe. And
Yeah,
so
I think
you're going to get repair with that.
Have a sales without the repair, they won't come.
Then you got to have somebody try it out to see if it works, and they're revving up.
Always the dealership does the
Revving
so
up engines.
Anyway, I would say pull the
Pull the two refueling
rental.
and the rental.
so. No, I'd leave the refueling in there.
Refueling.
No, because that's in the commercial, not.
The condition
It's for the office warehouse.
For the office warehouse, but we don't want refueling in the office warehouse.
Right, and so you would leave it in there because it's,
So you-
it's saying it's not allowed.
So we'll
I'm
leave
saying
the,
I'm okay.
leave the refueling, but pull out the
Yes.
rental.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but we would pull the pull the rental.
Rental.
So they can't sell ATVs or repair them?
That's what it currently says, and that seems to
But
be.
you're saying we should allow it?
No.
He's saying leave it as a non.
Disallow all automotive.
The only one I'm saying change is the automobile rental.
What's on second?
Yes.
Pull that from the prohibited uses.
I don't see why having an enterprise rent-a-car there is a concern.
Well, who are they going to?
We have an enterprise rent-a-car.
I say we did dictate that everything had to take place inside the building, so that kind of feels.
Because if they have all their cars in their parking, now are they taking up more parking? And then there won't be enough parking.
Is that enterprise?
That's my feeling. If the rest of the council feels that we want to leave it in there, that's fine.
I hadn't thought about it, but now I thought, okay, now what if they have 15?
Usually the small ones only have 5 or 6 cars.
I only rent at airports.
Right.
Yeah,
But I mean, we want to have a hotel there, and so.
I've rented from Hertz a few times. They've got 4 or 5 cars out front. That's about all they have.
Yeah.
And they're in a strip mall
The smaller
type.
ones,
Yeah.
at the airport, they have like 150, but at the smaller ones, they usually only have a couple.
Okay.
They bring them in if you reserve one, basically. So that's my 2 cents. So.
Okay. Councilwoman Barch?
I like making the office hours, or the delivery hours consistent with our noise ordinance. I think that that's good to be consistent that way. I'd like to remove all of the uses. With the rental, I would be concerned with them taking up parking spaces. And so the only way I would want to allow that is if we limited the number of cars they could have there, which kind of makes their business plan maybe untenable. I don't know how that would work anyway. So I think we just leave that out.
It's not in now.
He wants to talk.
May I?
Yes.
You gotta have me for sure.
I yield my time.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, so I don't like being interrupted, so I try not to do that to others. Now I forgot what I was doing. Oh, what about, does that include rental of like equipment and stuff like that? Because there used to be like a Saratoga rental place. It had a lot of equipment, and I actually used it.
If it's completely in the side of the building.
Specifically says automobile rental, doesn't it?
Problem is,
Auto rental, yeah.
Well, I don't know if we're talking, is there just a rental category, or is it auto rental?
Automobile rental.
Auto rental.
Okay, then whatever.
But it's actually not allowed right now. Would you rather not allow it how it is, or would you want to add it in?
So if we do nothing, it's not in, so I'm good. Let's do nothing.
Okay.
Is that clear as mud?
We're doing a lot of talking
We'll
for
ask
nothing.
for clarification.
So
Councilwoman McComber.
right now, it does have restrictions on operating hours, if I understand correctly.
In the office warehouse zone?
Yeah. For
No.
operating hours, okay, good.
No.
Because they would be under the noise ordinance, and if someone wants to go and work at 3 in the morning, let them, as long as they're not meeting the decibels outside. Yeah, they're
And
not
it's-
having the sound outside the building, and if they are, then they're breaking
That needs to
sound
take place in the building, so.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion. Councilwoman Barch?
I'll move that we approve Saratoga Northgate Development Agreement Ordinance 18-39 dated today, clarifying that we are removing all automotive uses from being permitted. They're all disallowed.
Okay.
And then the hours, can you do the hours real quick?
Oh,
And then adding.
Hours of delivery.
And then adding that hours of delivery must coincide with the noise ordinance.
I like that, and I'll second that.
Can I ask about
Oh,
the idling and overnight parking of the diesels?
I think maybe just it's consistent with the noise ordinance.
Well, the idling could be a noise ordinance, I think, issue. I don't know, chief, before you walk out. Decibels on trucks Would they supersede the noise ordinance?
If they're idling?
I would
You don't know this information off the top of your head?
Realistically, you've got trucks that drive by there all the time, and,
Yeah,
and
but
it's a
idling-
Jake brake issue. It's not a
I-
normal operation.
Well, and I know Councilman Podesta was
It's
talking
also a
about
pollution.
fumes, the pollution.
idling wouldn't be the fumes probably. Idling wouldn't be loud, but fumes, obviously diesel fumes.
We just dictate no idling.
Because they're just concerned with health issues with reports that studies have been done.
Sorry. Could this be something we address as a citywide thing versus just this specific thing? Because if we're going to apply it here.
No, I agree.
I mean, I like what you're saying.
So like whenever it abuts a residential.
Yeah, I think this is something we could address.
The standard typically is, can the noise be heard at the property boundary or beyond?
So that would be a yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not.
Way to measure decibels.
Well, and I'm not focused on the noise, it's just idling in general. I know that other cities have implemented stuff like that. It's not really enforced.
It's a green
hard
initiative.
to enforce, but I don't know. I don't have an answer.
So what if?
So do we don't put it in?
So if we don't put it in, and then we direct staff to bring us a no idling
Citywide policy.
For diesels.
For diesels.
This one's going to be a tough one to nail down because we don't have enough specifics from the council. So to delegate that to staff to do at this stage with the development agreement.
We're just
We're not saying with this development agreement in general.
What I was going to suggest is it can come back at the, like David mentioned, at the conditional use permit. And that can be identified as having a detrimental impact on the
Most of these aren't
adjacent
gonna be
residential
conditional
use. Huh?
But most of these aren't going to be conditional uses. They're all going to be permitted uses. So there won't be a conditional use permit.
Okay.
For most of the tenants.
But the idling thing, they're asking for you to bring it back as a citywide, not
As a
project.
citywide
Like a
ordinance.
citywide
Sure,
ordinance,
we can do that.
So for clarification's sake, you would like us to bring back a no idle ordinance comparable to that of, say, Salt Lake City?
I wouldn't say no idle.
No, I don't want to like see any passenger vehicles.
So
beyond that
I
ordinance.
guess my question is
But the
to
buses
further
idle.
clarify it, and I apologize, I just want clarity. You don't want them idling at night because of noise. You're not necessarily interested in
The exhaust is what they're concerned about.
Wait. We did something on the buses in the bus yard
Where they couldn't
about
idle.
they couldn't sit there and idle. They had to plug in to warm up versus sitting their buses and having the bus driver show up 45 minutes early and letting them idle in there for 56 buses all at once. We had something in there on that.
Why don't we just make it for this consistent with that as a condition?
Because that's sort of off, like, you know what I mean?
Is this just all kind of us assuming that there's going to be delivery trucks parked there overnight, idling? Is that
Well, no,
kind
like
of
a
where
truck driver sometimes will drop off their stuff and then they'll sleep in their truck and they'll have it on.
Right.
They have power.
And
They
that's
have power to
currently,
watch, play
I mean,
their
that
video games.
currently,
Honestly, that's what they do.
like, for example, down on Redwood Road in the south end of the city, there's some pullouts where trucks pull off to the side of the road, and we have some truckers that live down there.
But it's not
And
right next to houses.
It is. Right in front of Bayside Shores, and also just outside of Pelican Bay. So I understand what you're saying. Typically, they'll park them, and they're not leaving them idling all night long, but they will be there, parked there and stuff like that. So I understand what you're asking.
Well, maybe
I
they
guess
shouldn't be.
If that's the direction that you would like us to go, we will certainly come back and bring something back to you. Do you have a city that you would like us to model this after, or do you want us to just look at the bus yard?
You probably have to go to California.
There's the problem.
Well, because it's a green thing. I was joking. You probably have to go to California because Utah's not very green, but.
It's because we're in a desert.
Maybe just look at a couple of cities and see what they've got and, because I think we did put something in place for the bus yard, but I don't think we actually have enforced it.
We don't enforce anything on the bus yard. The fact that they have all those buses not under the canopies.
Yeah.
I got an idea. We have a nuisance code. We'll just add something about idling and mention like excessive fumes from diesel trucks and so forth.
Part of our
as a
nuisance code?
nuisance, and then they could be cited as a nuisance.
I like that.
So DEF makes diesels run really clean, being a diesel owner now. And so A, it's not loud, and B, it's not the black smoke that used to be there. So I think that,
Or we could just say noxious fumes. And
Why don't we just research it part of the nuisance? I
like that, part of the nuisance.
then you're not overreaching. It's only if it's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think we need to amend it. I think we'll have staff work on that separately.
So I've still got the first and a second in place. Any further discussion?
Can I just ask for a clarification?
Yes.
So on the auto-related uses, we're not removing?
We're leaving it as it is.
As it, okay.
Roll call. Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 12, 2019 City Council meeting schedule, Resolution R 18-64.
So motion made.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman McComber. Do I have a second? A second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion on the motion? Porter?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. The minutes?
I move that we pass the minutes on November 13, 2018. Nothing was submitted, right?
Second.
Okay.
I didn't even see them
I
in the
didn't even
packet.
see them in the packet.
I didn't see the minutes in the packet.
They were
I
on the
didn't either,
big
'cause There were
packet.
no minutes in the
I think
packet.
they may be in like the big packet.
Yep.
But they weren't in the individual
Thing.
files.
Okay,
Let's
I
just
move
table it.
to table the November 13 minutes till next session.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman McComber. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Porter. Whoever.
Barch actually seconded a long
I
time
thought
ago.
you second too.
I did after she did.
Councilwoman Barch can have the second,
I'll third.
for record's sake.
Do you want to fourth it?
Councilman Wilden will third it. Any further discussion?
I'm going to vote no now.
Just before we vote on this, I hate to add more to the meeting, but did we go through the reports, the staff reports, quarterly reports?
I think the mayor was going to do that as the last item, keeping
Making sure they stay here as late as possible.
This doesn't
You're
relate
here
to
right
the
along
motion.
with us.
But anyway.
But we need to vote
We have
this,
to end
yeah.
by midnight, so.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion pertaining to that motion? Okay.
Don't look at me.
He's the one who did it.
Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Back to department quarterly updates.
All right, we'll give you the planning department update here. We just got a couple of slides for you. I know you like to keep these brief. Just some of the highlights over the last 3 months that's come through the planning department. The North Shore Neighborhood Plan is now in effect, and they're going full bore on that. We've had multiple Mount Saratoga and Wildflower plats come through. You haven't seen those, and we'd like to honestly thank you for those changes you made in May. Now that we're approving preliminary plats and final plats, if those are shown in the community plan, that certainly speeds things up for us, and we really appreciate that. So you haven't seen a lot of those lately. We have various code amendments come through. The small wireless facility ordinance is now in place. We got the post no bills to prohibit signs on poles by putting a sign on a pole.
You know what? We can read it. Just the most important ones.
Jordan Promenade, Village 1, Beacon Point, the City Municipal Complex is approved, the community plan, village plan. Our new code compliance inspector is now on board, has been there since mid-October. These numbers I got from him about a week and a half ago, 17 closed cases and 33 open cases. I suspect someone's already opened from Sam. And we lost a planner one. We have an offer tendered to bring on a senior planner, and we're in the negotiation process on that. As far as the applications go, this is the historical last several years of applications. Currently right now we're at 181. That's probably actually a couple of more. We did receive a few more lately, so that number's probably increased by a few. But that's the number of applications, CityWorks applications the planning department has received. And so you can see that, the trend line, and then how it relates to the previous years. Obviously 2017 was quite substantial at 233. It has dropped a bit going on this year, but we will surpass 2016 and probably surpass 2015 by the time everything's said and done. So, any questions?
Any questions? Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Queue up the other one.
I do appreciate the updates that we're getting with all of the, even though you guys are approving them, knowing what's happening, I appreciate that.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Best planning update today.
I love the quick and speedy engineering.
He didn't even laugh.
Dan can do it in half the time.
So
Sweet.
we got to give Daniel a hard time. Come on, guys.
He did too good earlier.
Have you guys heard how Gordon's boys did in their wrestling match yet? Okay.
I'm glad he did.
I am too.
State.
Okay.
He's
waiting for his thing.
Yeah, I need my slides.
Welcome to our IT. Go ahead and just start talking.
Okay.
If you don't know.
Well, I know
Mark,
the
speaking of
first
updates,
slide.
any updates on our extra cameras?
Yes, we've got that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The first slide is one you just saw already. Gordon showed me these just before I got here. So it was the trend line with the, so we see the same applications as the planning department. So yeah, there we go.
It's good enough.
We're good.
Okay, project goals. Update the transportation impact fee facilities plan. It's dependent upon the TMP, which will come to you in January. We have a draft of the IFFP already. Foothill Boulevard corridor preservation. We're working with MAG to preserve different sections, like above. There's one above. Yeah, the benches, and then another out.
Property.
Yeah. Okay, Beacon Point Community Plan is on tonight's agenda. Saratoga storm drain outfall. That was item 5 with the interlocal agreement with Lehigh tonight. The 145 North storm drain outfall, we have that is in design right now, and standards revisions for detention ponds on private lots, and we'll be seeing that Plan Commission on December 13th.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Do we have reason? Oh. Did I catch you out?
Jeremy's for keeping me here. I hope there's a
Man, I was letting you off the hook tonight, Jeremy.
They just woke up.
I was like, you got your building.
Still jet lag. All right, I'll try to go fast because there's a few slides. So, electrical department, the big thing is the North SSD streetlight project that we've got lights ordered for now. That's about it there. Fixed network is the big thing in the water department. Loch Lomond and Harvest Hills, Route 7 and 8 are now online. It's going much smoother now. We've kind of got things figured out, and so that's going really well. Debbie read Route 8 in 5 minutes this month for Billy. So we're going to be lining the concrete. We're going to be lining the pond at the top of Grandview with concrete. The zone change, you had that come to you last time when Mark Edwards was here. Work in Grandview will be next weekend, 15th and 16th.
Oh, the cut into Grandview? Yeah.
The unfortunate cut into Grandview.
But are they going to do it wider, or are they just going to leave us a speed bump pit, depending on the time of year?
I think they're going to have them grind and do a
bigger overlay.
Coordinate with Mark.
Okay.
So
we'll name that the Miller cut.
We lowered the pump in well 6, so we're dealing with the dropping water table. So last year we lowered well 3, this year we're lowering well 6. How much do we have to go down? Drop another 100 feet or something like that, I think. With the buses. Sewer department.
A little tiny bump.
They found a new product out there to help with odor control that seems to be working better than one we were using before. So that's being implemented, and hopefully we'll see some improvements there. Installed lifts 3, 6, and 7, and they're looking at 2 additional locations, one in Harvest Hills, one in Telus Ridge. This is a biological product, so it helps kind of work with the natural system that help break down better, so hopefully that'll reduce odor complaints. We're about to begin upgrades to lift stations 1 and 2. A contract was awarded a while ago. Notifications, the guys, we have 2 guys in Surrey, they got those. Parks department. Mostly this stuff was we covered already in our mid-year update. They sprayed Fragmity once in the spring, they sprayed twice in the fall. This is the first year we did Fragmity control, so hopefully over a couple of years we'll start to see improvements there. Down at the marina, Fox Hollow drainage. You may have noticed they're starting to do all the restrooms, epoxy floor coatings to kind of improve the aesthetics and play into that.
So real quick, on the Phragmite, have we shared the formula with the golf course? Because every time I mention it, they're like, well, we don't know how to kill it. We've tried our stuff and it doesn't kill it.
Roundup.
You're just using Roundup?
Just Roundup.
Okay, so I'll mention that to them because we're never going to get rid of Phragmites unless the golf course takes care of theirs.
At the right time of year.
Yeah.
Spring and fall, yeah. And
we just need to make sure.
Double dose in fall just to really try to get it to suck into the roots. So.
If we could just make sure like we communicate to them, help them understand that, because we're never going to get rid of the Phragmites. It's just going to reseed right out into the lake.
They don't want us to fly it with the helicopter, I can assure you of that.
Well, no, I mean, they don't, but we need to go in there. They have the tractors, they have the trucks and things, but they just need to know.
So we had an interesting conversation on the Phragmite because, we always talk about the fact you can't burn it because it just seeds it. So we were talking about up by the inlet area, and they said that we can't go in and use the the marsh masters, the new ones, in that location because then all of the detritus gets into the pumps and wrecks the pumps. And we actually found out that you actually can burn if you do a spray and burn combination, and you have to do it like 3 years in a row, and it's spray, spray, burn, spray, spray, burns. Anyway, it's like this, it's a crazy dance. It kind of is. So that's something if you want to talk with.
It gives you an extra 100 lives at the end of it?
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They have a lot more biomass to deal with than we do. When you talk about those areas,
yeah,
they have to somehow get rid of all that biomass.
So, but I was thinking out, for example, like in some of our, like the golf course or along some of our canal areas or up at the drainage in Fox Hollow, those areas where we can't get a marsh master in there, but that might be something we can do where we can go in, we can do the spray and the burn so that we can actually finally get rid of them. But it takes like 3 years in a row.
Reach out to the Lake Commission.
Yeah.
Public improvements, we've got a lot of projects done this year. 4th North was done, it looks great. Pony Express widening was a pretty successful project. We're working right now on the gravity sewer outfall they're helping us with. They got the trail done over between Dalmore and Pioneer Crossing, infrastructure with Mount Saratoga. And so there's some stuff coming up. We're working right now on the Lake Shore Trail, Amanda Lane and Hot Pots, that would be nice. The Crossroads Boulevard widening we're working on right now with Lehigh. And then, UDOT's doing their project, so. Wayman Park repairs were completed, asphalt preservation. We did it in-house. We did the trail up by the fire station, the new bike park, so that was nice. Miscellaneous stuff there. Just a quick slide, just to give you an update. We're hoping to have this out to bid this weekend. So the big sewer project, the first phase of what we put out the bond for, is a 3-part. Yeah, north is to the left. So it's a 3-part project. So the green is the bridge east to Timpanogos, and then the blue and the red. So the blue and the red, the green is bond funding. The blue and the red is we're waiting on the church. We're going to bid it, get a price, and then Mark's been working with Thane to fund that portion. So the blue and the red would only move forward if Thane comes forward with approval for funding for that. But we're going to get him a bid price so that he has a hard number that he knows what it's going to cost. So green for sure, blue and red, depending on the church.
That is where
that's where the church doesn't own the property.
They don't own the property, and it's also right at Tickville Wash, and so.
Well, the problem is Tickville Wash is that big box. We can't go into the box, so we're too low. So we have to go around the box where it's still open ditch.
It's not going to be really square. It's going to be rounded.
No, it'll really be square.
So we'll hit it. We'll hit it.
3 angles work?
Yeah, great.
This is a low velocity. I mean, it's so flat. Yeah, they do work.
I've never seen low velocity. I've been to your little facilities. And I'm like,
well, this is a very, very flat.
Do you really want us to have this sewer conversation?
So our expectation is that you'll see these bids January 8th. So you'll be awarding at least one of these, if not all 3 of them, January 8th. This is a snapshot of what's coming up. So after this, the next 2 projects that we're going to bid are the little piece at the north end of SSD and the piece through the golf course. And then, as you know, the piece that we finished just recently there on the left. The pond we're going to line at the top of Grandview, so you can kind of see the existing condition on the left and where we're going to add concrete on the right. That'll reduce maintenance costs. Yeah. So this is the first. We have 3 ponds that have plastic liners that are maintenance issues. We're starting with this one. The other 2 are the one in Fox Hollow and the one in Harvest Hills. This is the smallest one, so this is the first one we're going after and get an idea of what it's going to take. Zone change we just talked about. It's already under construction with Grandview next weekend. Generator grant. That one is finalizing design. So as you know, we got a grant so that if we ever had a power outage or emergency, we could continue to provide culinary water via generators. This is a grant we're trying to finalize right now with FEMA. We got about $1 million. This is the debris drainage above Lake Mountain Estates that's been a concern for us. So I think we went after this grant 3 or 4 years in a row and we finally got it this year. That's it.
So,
Lanning or Sarah, or I don't know.
well, we'll get you an update for that at the retreat. One of the things, just as a quick follow-up to these presentations, the presentations that you've recently gotten will add or we'll do a condensed version at the retreat in January, in a month.
Just remind Mark or Shane or whoever that once you take possession of the park, that we would all like to see it. Okay. Or at least I would like to see it.
You want to see it in the winter, or you want to wait till the spring? Or
Both.